welcome to a very special episode of Planetos Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the fans of George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire and HBO's A Game of Thrones. Spoiler warning, the show will cover all material. The books, the novellas, the histories, quotes, and interviews by George and the showrunners, and all of the episodes of the show and its commentaries and bonus material. I'm one of your hosts, Brett. You can find me on Twitter at HomelyPillow.
And I'm your other host, Travis. You can find me at Sear_Travis on Twitter. We hope you enjoy tonight's show. So here we are. It is episode 4 of Game of Thrones, the final season. And we just saw about 24 hours ago, we're recording on Monday night, we just saw The Last of the Starks. Got to be honest, did not expect that title. I think it makes a lot of sense in the context for what happens in this episode. But we've got a lot to talk about tonight, so I want to get right into it. We have a very, very, very special guest here with us. It is Alisha. It is at TotesNotAlice on Twitter. She's here to help us break down what happened, to talk about what's going to happen with some of the characters, where we're going in the next 2 episodes. So, Alisha, welcome to Planetos. Please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on here. Obviously, this is very nerve-wracking because I've never done a podcast before, but I find y'all to be very gracious for inviting me and letting me word vomit my assholery onto you. You can find me on Twitter at TotesNotAlice. Totes is spelled traditionally, obviously, not Alice.
The hipster, or I don't know, what, young kids, hipster? I don't know anymore.
It's
I'm
slang.
old. I'm getting old too.
I'm sitting here saying, is there another way to spell totes? Because I'm not sure.
Now that you think about it, a tote is an actual item. So.
Right, yes. Yeah.
Do you spell it the same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I'm not
Totes
good at
is
grammar.
Short for totally, right?
Yeah.
Plural bags, not Alice. On Twitter.
Well, thank you, Alisha, for joining us. We've been interacting with you for a while on Twitter. It's really great to put a face with a name and have you join us. Your takes on Twitter are always really astounding, and that's why we wanted to have you on the podcast and to have you help us break down this episode.
If you need hot takes, she's your woman, right?
Yes,
there.
she is.
And I always love
she'll give it to you straight.
Yep.
No sugar coating.
Are you a Standerman? Are you a Standerman?
You know, I am getting to a point where I don't mind him. However, I think that okay.
I think 2 people that are alike really wouldn't like each other anyways, so
okay. You've been reading Emmett's tweets? Clearly. No, I don't mind. I don't mind Stannis. I used to really not be able to stand him, and I think more of what I loathed was the subcategory of Stannermen that think that standing Stannis is a personality trait.
Yes.
So, yes. As time went by and I did more digging into the series and I did rewatching of the show, even, you come to realize that Stannis is not as ambitious as he comes across to someone who just does not give a fuck about him, like a Stannerman would.
Right.
I don't mind him, but for reasons, I refuse to come out loud and say, "Oh, I like him."
Well, let's. I think it's our duty to bring up Stannis, but I think he's going to play an important role when we get to the end of this discussion about Daenerys,
and the end of the series, because he's coming back next episode.
Right? Oh yes, right. His headless. Thank God, his headless torso did not come back.
Sergeant.
Right.
Sergeant Dope.
Yeah. Yes.
We didn't see him die. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my. Well, HBO UK tweeted something like that. It was insane. Like, please just stop. Just let him be dead.
Yeah.
But from a character standpoint, we're going to talk about Daenerys because there's a lot to unpack with Daenerys in this episode. Oh, yeah. And I think Stannis may be a point I'm going to make about I'm very scared for Daenerys. I'm very scared for what they may do with her. And Well, let's get into it. Let's just jump right into this episode. Alisha, at the end of the podcast, we're going to ask you some questions about your experience in the fandom and how you found Game of Thrones and all that. We'll hold that to the end because we've got so much to unpack tonight that I want to just jump right into it. And we start by reacting to the episode. What was your general reaction? What was your takeaway? As our guest, you get to go first.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to say first and foremost, I know I might get slack for this, but as an overall impression, I actually enjoyed the episode as a whole. Of course, there are segments of the episode, without being too negative and too harsh, they missed the mark, kind of tripped at the finish line, if you will. Overall, I don't care what anyone says, it was a good episode.
Overall, I do like it. It's kind of one of those things, like, if the payoff is good, I'm gonna like it, just because I have expectations, and I know I gotta kind of let those go. So, but I did like the episode. I'm just worried about some of the directions they're taking. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you all. I've actually, I think, watched the episode 3 times now, only because I had that opportunity to do that today. And I was accidentally leaked on a couple things early yesterday.
Miss Sunday?
First, it was the Rhaegal thing. And then in a conversation I was having with someone else in my DMs, I started talking about the dragon, and that person didn't know about the dragon, but they thought I was talking about Missandei, so they were telling me about Missandei.
Oh
so
my
it was,
God!
We had it was pretty rough. But both of us were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I spoiled that for you." And he was like, "I can't believe I spoiled that for you." But anyways, I actually think it helped me walk away and put the episode in perspective as I was watching it, because look, anyone can go to my Twitter thread and see that I fucking hated the Euron Greyjoy thing. I hated that. I can't stand it. I do not like that character. And I think after episode 3, which I've come to really enjoy, there's problems with that episode, right? But after rewatching it, they neatly wrapped up the long night. And my initial reaction was, I was just so surprised that the White Walkers were defeated in one episode. But I can live with it because it was a cool twist. It was a devastating episode. To all the people out there who's saying no one really died, I mean, 7 people died in that episode. That's pretty significant. But to then turn around in this episode and have what happened with Rhaegal, it just felt to me like the stakes are misaligned. That the Night King and the White Walkers show up at Winterfell, and let me tell you, they were smug as fuck up there. They thought, we're going to destroy this place. We don't have to worry about killing people. If they had just come in slicing and dicing, they would have killed everyone probably. But he didn't. He took his time. He enjoyed the pleasure of defeating the Starks and defeating the North. And then Dany's just flying over Dragonstone, and here's 3 fucking bolts into this dragon. I can't take it. And I know that comes toward the end of the episode, and maybe we'll work some more up to it. But I mean, go ahead, Brett.
I do want to say this. Okay. People nitpicking like the semantics and how, oh, this wouldn't happen. You've got to take it for, yes, it would be nice if, at this point, we should all know we're going for spectacles here. Like, we're going for cool scenes. We've already seen it. It's just enjoy the spectacle. It may not make much sense because there's no way a fleet would sneak. You could have a sneak attack, but I mean, I would assume that even if it's a sneak attack, it's like you're within a couple of hours of someone. And like, there's no way you're going to outrun them in that time period or something. And so they know where you are and they're going to slow. You don't want to see that. So, like, everybody would everybody complains about, time and all that stuff. You don't want to see all the waiting. I mean, that would take
Right.
100 seasons. So, I mean, even if it doesn't quite make sense, I mean, suspension of disbelief a little bit, devil's advocate, just play, I don't know. I don't like like the John stuff where he's yelling "Go" to Arya. Like, no, Arya just snuck up on the Night King. That didn't happen.
Right.
It was a spectacle. The film crew looked at it as a spectacle, and that's what it was. Right. It's not the books. It's not.
There comes a certain point where you almost have to just turn your brain off to enjoy it. And I'm not saying that to shit on the show.
Yeah.
I'm saying that because the whole reason that we log on to Twitteros, the whole reason we listen to these podcasts, for y'all, it's making this podcast or myself guesting on this podcast. We're all wanting to turn our brains on and take a deep dive. What it has turned into, especially with the TWOW wait, we're nitpicking such negative shit that adds zero productivity to our lives.
Right.
I can understand being outraged at certain aspects of the show where the showrunners drop the ball. There are certain aspects of the show I say, yes, rip that to pieces, especially with the way the show can, with really poor editing, not communicate what they meant to communicate, i.e. the Cersei Jaime sex scene during Joffrey's funeral.
Right.
They meant that to be consensual, but guess what? You handled it poorly. I don't care what you intended. That was rape. You portrayed it as rape. I don't care what you intended. Yes. Pick that apart. Start a bigger conversation about it. And I completely understand making memes, making fun of these time hops and these logistical issues. But the way people tend to go in on it, I will go back to saying that adds zero productivity to your life. I am personally in a place in my own life where I'm trying to focus more on this negative thing that I am thinking about. What will that do for me? So I'm to a point this year, and it's not like I haven't nitpicked in the past, or I might not be guilty of it in the future, depending on my mood. I'm just saying, very matter of fact, objectively, and not in the way that B-Fish means objectivity. You're not doing anything by nitpicking time hops and logistics. And Rhaegal's death was stupid, but to some degree, why tune in if you're not just going to turn your brain off to those stupid logistical issues?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I think that was, I completely agree with everything you said, Alisha. I mean, it was amazing. But I want to you, Travis, the Euron thing. So the Euron thing, I'm not really unsullied going into this because I listen to Borsgore and Sword. So, like, I try to not listen to other podcasts before we do these, but he Red from Borsgore and Swords, he was saying, they hate Euron Greyjoy like that, because he's just he's like an out of nowhere big bad, but it kind of works for him because they don't really know him, and you're just like, why does he just fucking die? And he's just still there, and he just killed a dragon, and it kind of works. I mean, it kind of works to his to the villain advantage of, because you don't want to like a villain, so he is annoying, but I think he's supposed to be. I think they're nailing that,
Yeah,
in a way,
and I think that I chalk it up to this. I knew Rhaegal was going to die at some point. I mean, there's no way Dany...
I didn't know like that, though. It was kind of underwhelming.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is he was going to die at some point, whether it was the Siege of King's Landing or by show's end. I don't think these dragons are surviving. So I can live with it from that standpoint. I think, to me, and you're right, I don't want to nitpick. I did a lot of nitpicking yesterday in my reaction to the episode, and I don't want to do that. I think, though, internally for the show, Euron, and I want to move on because I want to talk about some very positive things with this episode. Euron has already surprised Dany and her forces twice already.
That card has been played.
That card has been played. And I get you want to level up Cersei, or you want to level down Daenerys and her forces to make it more even odds, or even harder for Daenerys to get, which we'll talk about when we get to where Daenerys may be going. I just think there are other ways to do it that make sense. And I've never been one to attack logistics or travel, because you can't do that. I mean, I love fucking Star Wars, but and Star Trek, they warp all over the fucking place that it doesn't mean anything. But I just think for me, it was just another, you got caught off guard again by Euron Greyjoy? Really? And that's it. Like that just frustrates me. And I think the purpose is to bring Dany down. And I'm not a huge Dany fan. I like her as a character, but I'm talking more of just you're using something you've used twice already to bring her down for the purpose of putting her on a certain path or making it harder for her to beat Cersei.
I agree with it, because I mean, it seems like her dragons are pretty useless now. I mean, you got those scorpions everywhere. Like what? Like they're supposed to have
Drogon some armor.
Give
that boy some armor.
I know.
Put some armor on yourself, Daenerys.
I know I've preached that the dragons are going to die, but I think Drogon's might be female at this point and has some eggs.
Maybe.
If I may.
Yeah.
This is teen turn off your brain.
Yeah.
And if you are in the defense of turning off your brain, a lot of the dragons in the George R. R. Martin universe that go into battle, that have been used for war, are older dragons. And most dragon lore, especially in this universe, the older a dragon is, the bigger it is, the harder it scales, the harder it is to kill. There are instances in George R. R. Martin's universe where the dragons are killed in various ways. For instance, storming of the dragon pit would be the biggest example of, like, really a bunch of people just took down this, okay, all right. Yeah. However, you can logic, if you are going that nuts about it, Dany's dragons are 5-6 years old max, right. And in the show they keep calling them full-grown dragons, and pick that apart all you want. However, they're large enough to cause some damage. In my mind, a scorpion bolt, especially a scorpion bolt that has been improved by a creep like Qyburn,
oh yeah,
I can see it piercing through a dragon. Yes, there are aspects of that whole scene where I myself am just like, fuck, really? Especially if you torture yourself by watching the behind the episode segment, which I swore I wasn't going to do that this season, but
don't do it. Just like don't read the comments, don't watch that.
My biggest issue with the behind the scenes segment is some of what they point out these days is just the obvious. Let's hypothetically, you can have a scene where Arya just flat out says, I had eggs for breakfast. And then you go to this behind the scenes segment and Dan and Dave are going to be like, so what Arya's saying in the scene is that she had eggs for breakfast.
No.
I know there was a lot of outrage on Twitter because I believe it's David. David is the
I can't tell them apart. I mean, I can. I can tell they're two different people, but I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know.
The taller one.
It's David Benioff, yeah.
He said something to the effect of, well, Daenerys kind of forgot about Euron. What?
Yeah.
So I can understand how Twitter is just making him the ass of their jokes at this moment.
Right.
I don't know if you two follow Leslie Jones on Twitter.
Yes.
Or if any of the...
I don't know why I'm not.
Every Game of Thrones season, she records herself giving commentary on scenes, and she should be doing the behind the episode, but she pulled footage from that scene and she was breaking down Euron, and the closest I have ever come to peeing myself was when she said she's just going in on him. She's like, look at this motherfucker. Like, he looks like one of them dudes that give you $15 and tries to say, "Oh, I gave you 20, so he can get my jacket." Like, but that's a rock star jacket. That is a nice jacket. She's amazing.
Yeah, she is.
But watching that scene, it did feel very rushed. It felt out of nowhere. It did not feel organic to the pace, the mood, even the lighting of the rest of the episode. It was 48, 50 minutes at Winterfell that, in my mind, those 48, 50 minutes were amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was just kind of wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, how was I? It just didn't feel like it fit in with the rest of the episode. And I still haven't had enough time to analyze whether I think that was the pacing or what have you.
Well, I think you made a good point, because to me, the rest of the episode really worked. Even I think the stuff right before the Euron scene and right after, with Daenerys and the fleet and King's Landing and all that. I mean, there might be a few issues that we'll discuss here and there. But, Kit Harington described this episode as Shakespearean, and I think it really was. I mean, I think there were some very tragic moments, heartbreaking moments, messy family drama, political intrigue. I mean, this episode was dripping with that, and I think in the context of the rest of the season, I like to see a whole season before I rank episodes, but I think a lot of those elements that existed in A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the episode 2, which I think everyone has universally praised, existed in, like you said, Alisha, the first 50 minutes or so of this episode at Winterfell, because the long night is done. No matter what you feel about that, it's done, probably. And we are back to the political intrigue. And if you think back to seasons 1 and 2 and 3, these are the characters we followed all along. Mm-hmm. And we are now seeing them be the main actors in the Game of Thrones. And I think that's very intriguing. And
I didn't think about it like that. Yeah. I mean, it's obvious, but I just didn't...
and it's not a one-to-one, but you just think of it in terms of Sansa has replaced Catelyn. Jon has replaced Robb. All these people have replaced these characters who came before them. A lot of the same characters, obviously, who played the Game of Thrones before are still playing it. But they are now the paramount players in this game. And I think that's very intriguing. So I want to say that we've talked a lot about Euron. I want to go ahead.
One last thing. And so, I was saying a lot of this stuff is spectacle, and it is. And I'm not saying you shouldn't criticize it. I think you should, because a lot of it doesn't work. But keep that in mind, and I don't know, like some of the fan theories are just getting insane. It's like, this is a TV show. You could chalk, like, you really, it is hard, because sometimes they do throw in like they throw the audience a bone, but most of the time they're not. They're not. I think one of the biggest examples is Podrick. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think the Podrick sex scene and whatever, season 2 or 3 or whatever, I think they were wanting to do a side plot of some sorts, and then they dropped it. And so, because everyone thought it was funny, so they're like, we're gonna drop that, whatever they had planned. And it would have probably been stupid anyways. Sorry to be negative, but it probably would have been. But
critique can be important.
No.
People who can come along and do it better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Critique becomes important if you have intention of, and I'm not saying have these grandiose ideas in your head that aren't going to come to pass, whatever. We're all dreamers. Critique, I'm not saying, my whole rant earlier, I don't want to communicate that you suck if you pick these itty bitty little logistics apart, because that becomes important for the person that does aspire to screenwrite, that aspires to be a cinematographer, all that other stuff, because you need to take parts that as a viewer you did not appreciate and apply that to your own art.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to backtrack, recant, if you will, and say, yeah, critique is important, Brett.
Yeah.
And
but I think it's also important, and this is something that Aziz and Ashaya have been saying on Twitter recently, that discourse needs to rise. We don't need to be dropping into each other's mentions, attacking each other. We don't need to be saying, you're ridiculous for hating this episode. You're ridiculous for loving this episode. That type of discourse, that type of critical response adds nothing. Like you said earlier, I don't think you should recant anything you said earlier. No. I think that it's fine to express your opinion. It's when you keep dwelling on that opinion, especially over things that you can't control.
Yeah.
What's the purpose? Just move on.
It's
right.
What's played is played, but we know what we don't like. We know what we like. Right. And also another thing I hate, when people have they have a good criticism and someone's like, oh, you couldn't do it better. And I don't think you need to be a 5-star chef to know your meal is shitty sometimes. So it's okay to have criticisms about stuff. I'm not saying the show's shitty. I'm not, because I love the show. It's still top notch. It's just, we are all super fans, and we are nitpicking to most fans. We are.
We get carried away.
Right. Yeah. Right. All right. So I'm going to right the ship. I'm going to Euron Greyjoy this vessel into Target, because we spent a few minutes talking about that. I don't think we intended to do that. I hope the listeners out there realize, like Alisha said, we are fans. We're here doing a podcast. We're contributing. We're trying to be positive. And the rest of the episode, in my opinion, was spectacular. Mm-hmm. So let's jump right into it. So we're going to start with the funeral scene, because that's what kicks off the episode. It's a poignant moment. It is an opportunity for us as fans to say goodbye to these characters. It's an opportunity for the characters to say goodbye to the people they loved, the people that they grew up with, the people that they fought and almost died with. So let's just go through what happened in that funeral scene and talk a little bit about that. So first, we get that very moving moment, and I like the juxtaposition here, because we get that moving moment of Dany, bending down and kissing Jorah goodbye and whispering something into his ear. We don't know what she says. I don't think it's important that we know. I think that's between her and Jorah. Immediately after, we see Sansa crying over Theon and slipping that little direwolf sigil onto him, basically making him a Stark in that moment. That's so powerful. Jon's speech, beautiful, perfect delivery by Kit. It was written very well by David and Dan. And then we get the moments of Arya saying goodbye to Beric Dondarrion, Sam saying goodbye to Dolorous Edd, Jon saying goodbye to Lyanna Mormont, and Grey Worm setting the fire on the Unsullied and the Dothraki. I thought this was a really powerful scene, and I'm glad that they took the time to start this episode with that. What's your all's thoughts about it?
The very first image you see is a pan up of Jorah. And I remember the very first time I watched it, within those 5 seconds, I just thought, I love this. Upon my rewatch, it occurred to me that there's a bit of a parallel between Dany saying goodbye to Jorah on the pyre and her, as LML calls it, alchemical wedding from season 1 at the end, where he tells her, when he doesn't realize she's going to step back out miraculously, he doesn't want to say goodbye to her. He doesn't want to watch her go into those flames. That was that was something that was ringing in my mind. Her saying goodbye to him in whatever way that she whispered to him. It was just, even down to her dress, it was perfect, because I don't know if y'all noticed this, but I have learned to read their costumes, because Michelle Clapton tells such a beautiful aesthetic story through those costumes. I noticed there were these metal or pearl, what have you, these scales, and it was almost as if it was communicating Danny has become more prickly now, more raw, more on edge. And I know there are times in the past I myself have thought, Emilia Clarke is an actress on the show. She doesn't always do it for me. She nailed it. She seemed just lost, and she just seemed emotionally rubbed raw. And usually when you have so many, when everybody had someone to say goodbye to, and there were at least six of those examples,
right.
Sansa saying goodbye to Theon and Arya saying goodbye to Beric. That could easily be just campy and overdone. And somehow I think they nailed that. Everyone had someone to say goodbye to, and it felt powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I really like your comment about the costuming, because I think especially in these later seasons, there's so many blacks and darks that people kind of dismiss what's being told. And there's a lot of fans out there to talk about bad takes. There's a lot of fans out there, especially our friends over at the Knights Cast. They get attacked all the time because they talk about the costumes, but they're talking about it in the context of storytelling. And, just like with Jon being resurrected in season 6, and he immediately puts on the Stark outfit. Now that's because he came to the wall in the Stark outfit, but it tells the story that he's no longer connected to the Night's Watch.
Mm-hmm.
And Michelle Clapton is amazing, and Danny's costuming this season is perfect. I didn't pick up on that prickly. Now I want to go back and watch it a fourth time, because
I'm gonna have to watch it, because the art that's
something that, as we move through this discussion, is going to mean a lot, because Danny is exposed, and she, each of these people, it's funny. Not all of them are perfect examples, but if you think about it, Lyanna Mormont on the show was one of the first houses to support the Starks. Now she made them work for it, but she stepped up to support House Stark. Theon saved Sansa at Winterfell. We can talk about that storyline a whole other day. But the fact that Theon saved Sansa, and we saw that in the lead up to the Long Night episode, that they were just sharing a bowl of soup together outside. Very poignant. It's important for her to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Beric saved Arya this last episode, but also, basically saved her from the road in season 2 or 3 or whatever it was as well. So all of these people have meant something. And Jorah was with Danny from day one. And I know we can talk a lot about that character. That character is dead.
Mistakes, whatever.
Right. He's dead. It is what it is. But I kind of think what you said, Alisha, is really interesting. I wonder if Danny's whispering something to him that, I wish you'd walk out of this flame. I wish you'd come back to me.
I just read an article today, and I'm just going to put it out there. We're never going to know for sure.
Right.
It will be fun to speculate. I suppose the writers had told Emilia Clarke she gets to write her own lines for that scene. Ian Glenn. Yes. Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
Ian
Yeah,
Glenn
cool.
did an interview, and it was total EW clickbait, Entertainment Weekly.
I fall for those all the
They
time.
need to fuck right off with their coverage of Game of Thrones lately. I'm not. So he was basically saying, yes, what she said to Jorah was audible to me. And essentially, Brittany Murphy from that movie way back in the day in the early 2000s. I'll never tell. We are never going to know.
You can't drop a Brittany. You can't drop a Brittany Murphy reference in this.
You know how old I felt when I did that? Like, yes, I'm proving myself as a 31-year-old. Yes. I think that's kind of beautiful. As much as I'm a very curious soul, I'm always burning to know who, what, when, why, where, how, but from an artistic point of view, I love that the actress who has spent years portraying Dany and knows the intricacies of Dany, she got to make this call, and it's between the two actors. And it is beautiful to think about the fact that she wishes he would step out of the fire, because you do, the way I read into it, the way I choose to, because I think there's that parallel between him being on the pyre and her own pyre scene with Drogo.
Right.
He got to watch her walk back out of that fire with dragons. She watched him light up. He's not coming back.
Right.
And that pulled me in. It's just tragic. And I am glad there's a deviation character arc wise between book Jorah and show Jorah.
Sure.
Clearly show Jorah is a lot more likable. I'm able to disconnect that book Jorah is a shitbag from the character on the show. But I just don't care about Jorah. I don't dislike him. Give a shit. However, Emilia Clarke has been pulling you in to give a shit that she gives a shit.
Right.
And that was powerful to me, because in my mind, what I felt from that was she'll never see him again. And when she lit the pyre and his body goes up in flames, I think it hit her right then and there. He's not coming back. And that was hard. And I don't want to jump too far ahead, but something that I had noticed on my second watch, when, I don't know if they're the higher ups or what have you, the torchbearers, when they go forward to light the pyres, it's scattered. But the way that the positioning was, Dany walks back by herself while Jon is with his sisters. And I think even very early on in the episode, they're trying to show you how separated and isolated Dany is, not only feeling, but even physically. She's isolated and she's separated. And maybe I'm reading into it too much, but
I don't think you are.
No. I think that's.
And Jorah, Jorah was also an important connection to the north that she has now lost.
Mm-hmm.
Grey Worm and Missandei do not provide her that. They're outcasts just like she is. Tyrion, yes, he can do the politics and all that, but he doesn't have any connection to the north either.
On top of that, he's a Lannister.
Well, right. And they're never going to trust a Lannister.
Well,
not within a few generations.
Right.
I mean, now you have some. Also, you have the Prince of Dorne, the new Prince of Dorne.
Oh, okay, we will get to that.
But
let's quite a bit in my notes of who the fuck, what the fuck,
but,
where the fuck.
Yeah. But I don't know. I want to get to it. I kind of like it though, because it's like there's people there. Like the Stormlands needed somebody to take over, and there's no mention of Stormlanders. You have the phrase they're all dead. Like what? Who's taking over?
I'm pretty sure the show, in a roundabout way, acknowledges that they flubbed Dorne. There's no redeeming Dorne.
Yeah.
Dorne was a loose hanging thread. It was one line that, in some ways, opened up 1,000 more questions, and in other ways, it just new Prince of Dorne, and he doesn't like the Lannisters. And I believe it was Sue the Fury that tweeted, "New Prince of Dorne, like what the hell?"
Yeah.
She wouldn't be the only one if it were her, but I responded to that. For sanity's sake, let's just, in our headcanon, it's a bastard from an offshoot branch, or it's a cousin, or whatever. But new Prince of Dorne, yay! Here we go. Move on before we just rip all our hair out, jump out a window.
So immediately after the funeral, we go to the feast, and the feast is very mournful and somber. You hear more of the clinking of plates and silverware,
no music,
and cups, and no music, thankfully. But it's just, but you can sense how hot it is in that room, how suffocating it is, how these people are just eating. They're eating, and the tension is broken when Gendry gets up to go find Arya, and Dany stops him, and Dany calls him out at first. Calls him out. Your name is Gendry Baratheon. You're Robert Baratheon's son. Robert Baratheon is dead. His brothers are dead. Who rules Storm's End? And then she raises him up. She makes him a Baratheon. She names him Lord of Storm's End. And that gives the impetus for everyone in there to begin celebrating, to begin reveling, begin drinking more and singing and dancing and kissing and all this stuff. I want to stop right there with the Gendry thing. I think it's a very interesting move by Dany, because I immediately said to my wife while we were watching that, I said, she's undercutting Jon and Sansa. Mm-hmm. I took that as this guy is on their side. Now I'm going to make him my lord. And I think that's what she's saying when she says to Tyrion, you're not the only one that can be clever here. And I don't think it's nefarious.
No.
I think she's the queen.
I think there are multiple reasons. I'm a Dany apologist. I really am.
No, that's totally fine. I mean,
multiple reasons. She did lean in at one point and tell Tyrion, "You're not the only clever one." I think she also, a part of her did that out of compassion. Mm-hmm. It just happened to benefit her politically to do so, and she told Tyrion as much. She was upfront about it. I unfortunately was spoiled on a few things. One of those being, and someone, I'm not going to say what it was, but long story short, one of the things I was spoiled on was Dany is just, she's going to be pushed, and she's going to be pushed, and she's going to be pushed, and it's going to put her in a place where she's not going to be making the best of decisions. So when she first called Gendry out, the whole time I was just like, please don't, please don't, please don't. And then she rewarded him. I'm going to maybe read into it too much, but I did notice that, like I said, to all listeners, I am acknowledging, mayhaps I'm reading into it too much, and I will eat my words if I'm wrong. Maybe not gladly, but
we've already had to eat a bunch of our words, so it's fine. I think as a fandom, we've had to.
She raised Gendry up, and I did notice that Sansa gave Dany what seemed like a very resentful look. I still haven't quite figured out what I think that look meant, so I'm just gonna not really say anything.
She gives it to Tyrion.
Yes, I noticed that. I thought it was strange because at no point did Gendry kneel to her, which I would have thought to be customary. And not only did he not kneel to her, but when he went back to the benches, Sam is there to just basically greet him and be like, yeah, good job. And Sam is giving Dany this look. He's giving her this look. And it does make me wonder, I wonder if eventually Sam will start rallying people against Daenerys. And I wonder if he will not kind of put something in Gendry's ear about it. That could be total tinfoil. But he just gives her this look. And even if nothing comes of it, it's understandable because she burned his family alive. He's still upset about it, and rightfully so. But it's Sam, and he's good-natured, and, he's a good sport.
What if Gendry acts like a dude that just got broken up with and because it's Arya and goes that. I don't want that to happen. I don't think that's in his character, but they kind of set up where he could be wishy-washy.
The big theme of Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, is something something sins of our fathers, something something.
Yeah.
Therefore, I would be entirely disappointed if we repeat salty Baratheon man jilted by willful Stark girl woman.
That I didn't think about it like that, but oh my god. So okay. Yeah, I'm not
pissing on you and being like you're wrong.
No, I didn't even.
Me if we went there.
No, I think, oh God, I mean, I would be too, but then again, they might
happen. We have to keep in mind too. Like I've said before, Dave and Dan have not always handled things very well. It might happen. I don't know. I'm just saying it would be extremely disappointing if we went there. We've seen this before. I'm sick of it. At least give me one Baratheon dude that is not a total shat bag. Sorry, Stannerman, not sorry. I would just really like to see a Baratheon man that's not one extreme or the other. It'd be nice to see one that's just good-natured without being a total douchebag.
I really do think that's gonna be Gendry. I just kind of thought about it, and I'm like, because you kind of get that with Tormund, he's crying. He gets over it pretty quick, but
a lot of people became very exasperated by his infatuation by Brienne very quickly, and for good reason. It did not wear me out as quickly in the way that it did other people. I personally felt satisfied with the way that they wrapped up Tormund's infatuation with Brienne, and it was total. And not only did Jaime cock block Tormund, but then on top of that, you have Tyrion, who's like the hype man to that cock block, and it was all nonverbal, and it was perfect. And the next scene, cut to him just sniveling and crying to Sandor.
Why do people keep talking about their feelings to Sandor? Because Sandor is quiet, but then he'll get tired of it, and then he's going to tell you off. Like, he's not just a quiet person.
I laughed so hard when it just shows Tormund being like, but she broke my heart, Clegane, and Sandor's just like, don't fucking touch me.
Yeah, but even not Podrick, even I don't even get them too confused. Gendry was talking to Clegane about it, and it was just, I don't know. It's like, just quit talking to him about your feelings. He does not care.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't care. He doesn't pay attention when Daenerys is addressing Gendry. He's still, if you watch, he's still eating.
Yeah.
When everyone else is cheering, he's like, "Fuck this," and like still eating.
Okay, so
who gives a shit? So, there is the only thing he showed like visible. I don't want to say pleasure. That's what she said. The only thing he smiled or even smirked about was when Daenerys applauded Arya.
Oh,
it was subtle, and I loved it.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I'll have to watch that again.
The only that I noted, he smiled or smirked twice during that entire feast scene, and both scenes involved
the Stark
sisters.
Yeah. Did y'all see? Okay, did y'all see? I got this from Borsgore and Sword, so I had to go back and rewatch it. But Pod, after the Hound refuses one of the sex workers,
Pod takes two women.
Yes, he's initiating a threesome.
I don't know if they were sex workers.
I think they were just. Yeah, they were just.
Oh yeah, or servers.
Serving ale. Yeah, they were serving ale and wine, I think.
But yeah, he was initiating a threesome in the background there.
He was singing to them, Brad. He was going to sing to them.
Oh, okay.
I missed that until
our little boy's grown up.
Yeah.
He just turns around and smiles, and I just I think they've played all of their Pod is good with the ladies cards.
Yeah. I'm glad they're doing that like in the background now.
Yeah.
Right. That was a good touch to kind of do it in the background rather than forefront. But that the feasting scene, I liked it as a whole, especially when Tormund and John and a few other no-namer, probably red shirts, and Sansa were all drinking together, and John didn't want to drink all the wine and the horn, and Sansa's like, "Oh, I believe in you." I loved that because Sansa is taking part in this drinking and merriment and just hanging with the Northmen, and there's no gender barrier there, and it. As far as the merriment and the drinking and all that, because I'm sure we can offshoot branch into, all sorts of conversations about this feast, because obviously it was busy. There was a lot going on. I liked it. I don't have a lot of complaints about how they did it.
No.
But yeah, longest rabbit trail ever. I do love that Sandor, and all his grumpiness, and at one point, I think he literally growled at one of the servant girls.
He did do a dog. Like,
he let himself, I believe it wasn't even a smirk, just openly smile about commending Arya, and he smiled when Sansa came to sit down and eat with him, drink with him, if you will. I'm going to let Chloe really, really cover the intricacies of that scene.
I loved it though. Oh my god! Yeah. I think that was better than the Arya scene. Both of them, even the second one we got, I
have seen some complaints regarding something that was said during that scene.
Right.
And I can understand where that complaint is coming from. It's just not personally the offense that I personally got out of it, and that's not undercutting what another person feels.
Yeah, right.
But there was a complaint I saw a few different times about how he said to her, "You should have let me take you home. Like, you should have let me protect you." And she's essentially saying, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." That's what I got out of it. And I know there were a lot of people that think that what was communicated, and maybe they were, I hope, maybe the showrunners were communicating this, I hope not. Yeah. But it seemed to a lot of people like what was being communicated was, well, I had to get raped to turn into a bad bitch.
Right.
I hope that's not what they're communicating. Yeah. When I heard her say that, I'd still be a little bird. I'm not going to get into it too much, but I have in my life gone through the 9th circle of hell and back, and you learn to, for survival's sake, you do learn to look at it from a perspective of, it made me stronger. And that's personally what I got out of it. Mm-hmm. That's not to say, no, that's not what they meant. In that moment, I liked that line, because as a female who has, been one of those little girls that they hurt all over the world, it was good to hear her saying, this happened, it wasn't great, but it formed me.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it at that. But as far as the San interaction, I think Chloe should take it away. I think that
I can't wait to hear it. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Though I imagine everybody's listening anyway.
No, but I will say though, I thought it was kind of a callback to season 7, where they're kind of like, when Arya and Sansa were kind of making up too, like, you would never have survived. Not exactly, but it was just kind of, I don't know what the showrunners meant. I hope they didn't. I don't know if they would drop the ball that bad, but I don't know too. But
I didn't love the Winterfell. Sorry.
No, I didn't.
No, I was going to say I think the problem with the scene is not their.
I could see both characters saying it.
Well, I'm saying the Sandor and Sansa scene. I doubt they intended to convey it as some people are taking it. Like Alisha said, that does not dismiss the way people are taking it.
Yeah,
I think it's the fact that they don't have the perspective to know that something said like that could be taken that way. That's part of the problem, that everyone knows they don't have that perspective in mind, because they either don't have female writers in the room, or they've never, had a character address those type of situations.
Correct.
That's my takeaway from it.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think they intended it, but I think you can say, man, they just don't have that perspective in their worldview.
Correct.
So it can lend to be very problematic.
Harkening back to what I said about the Cersei Jaime sex scene in Dissect, they intended it to be consensual, but when it comes down to it, it was rape because of how it was handled, because they did not have they didn't think of it that way, and that is part of the problem. For instance, I hate bringing this up, Sansa's own rape. I'm sure I can surmise how they intended that scene to go. The bottom line is they handled it poorly, and they communicated very clearly, whether they meant to or not, this is what was communicated. Right. Oh, Sansa's rape scene is about Theon. Like, because of the editing, because of the writing, because of I don't care, that's what was communicated. I don't care what you meant. This is what you put out. I'm not trying to defend it. I can say I think what they wanted to do was spare you. The rape scene shouldn't have even been in there. I'm just going to put it out there. Sansa Stark should have never been touched by Ramsay Bolton. What they intended and what they ended up producing are two different things. You know what they say about good intentions, road that leads to hell, or whatever your belief system is about the bad place. I'm saying I totally validate how there are people out there who think that David and Dan are communicating, oh, you got to get raped to turn into a strong woman. I hope that's not the case. Right. I'm just saying that's not what I got out of it in that moment. I thought, you know what? I relate. So
let's keep moving on because we haven't even made it past the whole feast yet. Couple other moments in there. I want to talk about Tyrion's conversation. First of all, he and Davos discuss Melisandre. Davos seems to get a little closure with that character there, basically in addressing that, what she did was terrible, but he's not sure if it was her or her God who forced her to do what she did and live so long, etc. Then Tyrion has a conversation with Bran, which I thought was very odd, what Bran says. Basically Tyrion's trying to get him to accept that, oh, your role is Lord of Winterfell. You're the last male heir. This is what you're destined to do. And Bran says, I don't want any more. I have no desires or anything. And Tyrion says, I envy you. And Bran says, you shouldn't envy me. Mostly I live in the past. I thought that was a very strange line. What do you guys think about that?
I got very mixed signals from that particular scene. I didn't hate it. I just didn't feel very strongly for it.
Yeah.
He said something at one point. Oh, and he was talking about this mysterious King Darren with this mysterious crippled nephew or sickly nephew. When I first watched it, I thought, well, a buzz is kicking in from this beer, so maybe I just don't remember who his nephew is. And then I looked it up and I said, oh, maybe I'm still stupid. But then you log in the Twitter and you're like, oh, no, I'm not crazy. Cool. All of that aside, I liked it. In the moment, I thought, oh, they're trying to communicate that in some level he still feels. Because he said, King Darren, I liked that one. And I thought, oh, they're showing some of Bran's humanity. And then they kind of backtracked on that with him, back to robot voice and I'm living in the past. I still haven't figured out what I think I still haven't figured out what I think about that line. I thought it was strange. I got mixed signals from that scene. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It was just vexing.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are living in the past. Like they keep I don't know where I saw this. I read it on Twitter, I think somewhere, where people keep living in the past. They keep repeating mistakes, and maybe even the three-eyed crow can do that. And I hope to God that they're not the three-eyed crow ain't gonna turn into the Night's King because he repeats a mistake. Maybe the breaking of the will comes with Bran instead of all the political stuff, maybe, and then the world functions like our world today, where I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to take it.
I don't know if there's more there or not. I think this is a character that we're just gonna have to see how the series ends in order to inform what his purpose was, other than being a repository of knowledge and history and all that.
It's hard to speculate now because I've been so wrong about so many things. Like
so many balls have been dropped.
Yeah. So it's like I
go back to and there will be payoff as I'm backtracking. Let's go back to episode 3 and how a lot of people were left dissatisfied with how we feel the whole long night and White Walker lore has concluded. What was Bran doing? What's his general purpose? I have ebbed my own anxiety about what the fuck by reminding myself that the next series that we're going to get in George R.R. Martin's universe from HBO is literally titled The Long Night. And I do wonder to myself if I don't think it was well done, but I do wonder to myself if certain doors were left open because HBO would prefer to answer those questions in this other series. I do wonder if David and Dan maybe had intentions of answering these questions, and maybe I don't know how production works, but maybe HBO twisted their arms and they're like, no, wait, we need this for this series. But there were a couple of lines dropped in this particular episode that do leave me to wonder if that's not something that we'll get payoff for if we watch The Long Night.
So we didn't talk about in the scene, Alisha, you brought it up, Tormund and the wildlings and the northern folks and Davos celebrating Jon. And, Dany gets the moment where she, where Tormund actually does a cheer to the Dragon Queen, and she does a salute to Arya Stark, the hero of Winterfell. I thought this was really good, but the camera zooms in on Dany at that one point during the adulation of Jon and really sets up this isolated, scared, frightened Daenerys that, one, she's not receiving the praise. I don't think that that's the main motive with the scene, though, that she's somehow jealous. I think, again, going back to our point about Jorah and all these other people, that, she doesn't have anyone there that understands what she has gone through, that, what she has done. Talk a little bit about that scene.
I am going to piggyback off of that because I have a bit of a rant.
All right.
So Tormund is going on to praise Jon, and he says a quote at one point. He keeps fighting and he keeps fighting and he keeps fighting, and the camera is panned over to Daenerys, who is she looks raw, like she looks lonely and vulnerable, if you will. Dany keeps fighting and Dany keeps fighting and Dany keeps fighting, and I don't know if that's being recognized by anyone. She doesn't have anyone left to recognize that. As the episode goes by, she is losing the people close to her, the people that validate her. You can call her a megalomaniac. You can call her a scared girl on the inside. Either extreme end of the spectrum, it doesn't matter. She's losing people. Right. Everyone needs validation. Not just because you're a megalomaniac, just because as a human being, a basic need is validation. She's not getting that anymore. Back in season 7, she gives this speech to Jon about, I have been through this. I've been chained, sold, raped, hunted, and do you want to know what kept me going? faith in myself. I didn't love it at first, but I ended up loving that speech because she knows she's been just clawing and pulling and crawling her way through life. And to see John get recognition and it's not that they aren't recognizing her, but it is the way they're recognizing her is in a passing glance. Just like, oh, yay, Dragon Queen. So anyway, John, and you feel that. You get sucked into that moment. And this is where I'm saying Emilia Clarke is pulling you in and getting you to just feel the loneliness. Danny is lonely, and it's weighing in on her more and more and more as the episode progresses, but it's brought to the forefront more than anything in this particular scene. So Varys notices it, and I don't know if he is at a point where he's contemplating jumping ship, but Varys is a smart person. I'm sure he can put 2 and 2 together that this plus this equals this outcome more than like. He knows Dany has lost a lot of her troops. He knows a lot of her background. He knows she's taken a lot of personal losses. He sees her right then and there. I think he's at a point where he's very much concerned because he just looks way too ominous. And I did note when Daenerys stood up to leave the feast, I understand generally when a monarch stands, everybody who's sitting rises with them until they leave the room, and then they what's the word I'm looking for? And then they proceed with their activities.
Yeah, they can return to what they were doing. Yeah.
Varys is the only one that stands with her. So even as she's leaving, I've had enough of it. You feel isolated with her.
I didn't catch that. That's a good catch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Basically, what I got out of that with Dany is it was the most powerful scene out of the entire episode to showcase her feelings of isolation and her loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
And how it's justified, really.
Yeah. All right. So the 3 final scenes that night at Winterfell are Jon and Dany, Arya and Gendry, and Jaime and Brienne. I actually thought all of these scenes were very well done for what they were trying to convey. It's sad to see Gendry so happy and trying to get Arya to accept what he wants for the future. But I think deep down he knows that she can't give him that. And I think I think he'll end up being okay with that. Who knows how that storyline.
He's got one of the strongest castles in the world now. I mean, I think he'll get. And he was a bastard all his life, and now he's legitimized. I think he'll
he'll be okay.
Yeah.
And Davos. I'm sure if Davos is still alive, he's going to be right there with him. So he's got a good guy beside him that's going to help him.
Davos does need to go with him. He does. Yeah.
I think they might have hinted toward that because there was a lot of camera focusing on Davos during Gendry's legitimizing.
He's the first that stands up and cheers for it. Yes, you're right. Yep. Jaime and Brienne, how did you all think that was handled?
I was just going to say it was awkward because Jaime's only been with one person. Am I frozen again?
No.
Oh, I thought you said you're okay. Because I can hear y'all for like about 10 seconds before I drop out. But anyways, no, it's just funny because like Jaime's only slept with one person in his life, and then Brienne has never slept with anybody, and they're just both so awkward, and it works so well. And Jaime's drunk. I think Jaime's really, really drunk, and just
the way he comes stumbling in.
Yeah.
You didn't finish the question.
I think it was Fat Walda on Twitter said, "Oh yeah, Jaime's using the. It's really hot in here.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take my shirt.
Yeah, he's like
I only have one hand. If you could just
if you can help me. I thought for like when I started to realize, and I actually during the drinking game scene, which I thought was a good a good scene as they were drinking during the feast and playing their game. I said to my wife, I think these two are getting together tonight, and actually I wasn't spoiled on that, thankfully.
Look at Tyrion. Look at Tyrion asking the worst question, like the most rude, invasive question. But I think he was doing that to like.
He was wingmanning it.
Yeah,
he was wingmanning it,
which
the whole time.
Doesn't really work in real life, but yeah.
So I did notice a thought I had on that drinking game was it is a bit of an improvement on season 1's, just because I thought the acting was a little wooden in that scene in the first season. Fight me on it all you want at TotesNotAlice. But I did notice that Tyrion is, again, separating him from his book persona. Show Tyrion is getting back to being Show Tyrion and not just there.
Yes.
It felt like good old Tyrion again. Yep. The antagonism, the trolling, the perception.
Season 1, yeah.
Yeah, I liked what they did with Tyrion in this episode, even if he was overly. It's like he was worshiping the ground that Dany was walking on instead of being objective. You can always count on Tyrion to be objective. It did feel like he was even having to convince himself on a lot of his takes on Daenerys. While what is coming out of his mouth makes sense, the way that Peter Dinklage was presenting the melody of his voice, the facial expressions, it felt to me like Tyrion was having to convince himself as well.
Yeah. I don't know. I missed that. It went over my head. But
I don't believe Cersei is the only Lannister that can use a truth to tell a lie, even if you're lying to yourself.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
even Jamie. I mean,
way too much credit.
Even Jamie does that. I mean, he tells. I mean, I think Jamie has come around, and like he's not. Some people got his conversation with Brienne confused. I think he's going back to stop Cersei, and he's gonna probably. That's why they focused on Brienne. He's gonna die doing it.
I think that he plans on dealing with Cersei, and he hates himself for it.
Yeah,
but he plans on dealing with Cersei. So when he said, "I'm a hateful man," or "I'm hateful to," or whatever he said verbatim, he was probably saying a couple different things. But I think he's about to go kill his sister, and the mother of his children, even if he never really was much of a father. Anyone would hate themselves.
Yeah,
you know, even if both of those dynamics are in one person. There aren't a lot of people outside of the South who the mother of their children happens to be their sister. Actually, that happens just as much anywhere around the world. Anyway, so I think that the Lannisters themselves, they use truths to tell a lie, even if that lie is to themselves. And they don't know it yet.
That's what Tywin does.
Oh yeah, that scene where she's like, "You know good and damn well that Jamie and I have been boning, and you refuse to see it." And that's the only time you see Tywin unnerved, because he knew, and you knew he knew,
right?
And you know that Cersei knew that he knew that she knew. It doesn't matter.
You know that I know that you know. Okay.
Jack Sparrow linguistics around to just basically say everybody knows that everyone knows. So,
the Jamie Brienne stuff, the ending of that arc was absolutely brutal. And I totally understand where Jamie's coming from. I think once he learns what happens, I think like Tyrion, he still thinks he can save Cersei. I think he can get her. He thinks he can get her to stop, to give up. But I also think that he believes that if someone's going to have to stop her, let it be me. I'll go. I'll do it.
And
whether it's saving her or killing her, I think in his mind he knows it has to be him.
And here's the aspect of it too: medieval world and extreme dysfunctions aside, these are human beings with siblings. I hope that there aren't a whole lot of listeners out there who have, unfortunately there will be, have a sibling that they find themselves at odd ends with. When it comes down to it, you care about their well-being because they're your sibling. I don't think that being blood makes you family. I think there are plenty of people who are distanced from family and it's justifiable. But I know with my brother, him and I, when we argue, it is absolute clash of the titans. And as a conclusion, sometimes we don't want to talk to each other for weeks on end. But you know something? I know my brother has my back in every possible way because I have seen it. Nobody, no one has ever wanted to punch my brother in the face as much as I have. Okay. I am the only person that can punch him in the face. And to quote Pam Poovey from Archer, speaking on her sister Edie, if anyone's gonna choke her bitch neck, it's gonna be assuming Jamie is the Voluncar.
Yeah.
If anyone's gonna choke Cersei's bitch neck, it's gonna be Jamie.
Yeah. Pam. I fucking love Pam. She's the best character in Archer. So great reference there. Let's end with the last scene at night at Winterfell, and that's the Dany and Jon conversation where she comes into the room and Jon pretends he's not drunk, but he actually is drunk. This has tragedy written all over it. I don't know if I was just a hopeless romantic last season and thought, oh, this is going to work out or what, but
you sweet summer child.
You know, I'm not drunk.
Jon, I hate to say it like this, but Dany is giving Jon the only way that this is going to work out. Now, you can argue whether maybe she should say, well, we can work this out by both being rulers, or, well, I'll let you rule or whatever. I mean, you can make those arguments. I don't think that those have merit from the standpoint that Daenerys sees herself, and she says this later in the episode, she sees herself as a savior. She doesn't see Jon that way. And I think she believes he has those qualities, but she's giving him the only alternative here is to keep it a secret. Say nothing more about it. If you love me, this is what you'll do. If you love me, this is the way we can stay together. And let's go ahead and add in here the fact that he then turns around after this war council scene where they plan their attack on Cersei. And, they should have probably listened to Sansa. Don't rush headlong. We'll get into, we've already talked about the surprise Euron attack. But he goes to the Godswood and he has Bran tell his sisters the truth after he told Dany that he wouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, no, wait, no, maybe I have that wrong. Does he say I won't tell them?
I don't know if he told Daenerys. I don't know.
That's
if he
true. Yeah, I think it leaves it ambiguous.
I go ahead.
Oh no, he told Daenerys like he's his queen. He's not going to say a word or something. But then he tells his sisters. But yeah,
okay, so Arya right away is like, okay, I swear it. Sansa hesitated, and I remember in that moment thinking, she's not going to keep this secret. No. I'm going to say right now, whoever thinks that Sansa is just this gossipy, stupid little girl that can't hold water, fuck you, you're wrong, at TotesNotAlice, come find me.
She's playing the same game. Like, now we have a better ruler, one we can control.
She went into it obviously hesitant, being practical, saying, telling me to keep a secret without even divulging a little bit of the contents of this secret. Come on, dude. And then she says, I swear it. But sometimes you have to do a seemingly dishonorable thing to do right by your family. It's not quite the same. It's a very loose parallel. I acknowledge this. I might even regret it when I wake up tomorrow, like, oh, fuck. Ned Stark and lying about having a bastard. Sansa divulging that secret, I don't care what anyone says, was her looking out for her family.
Right.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
And I don't disagree with you. I think that is exactly what she's trying to do. Now, you can look at that and you can say she doesn't like Daenerys. She says that. She makes it this was the episode that it was the most clear. I think it was very clear from episode 1, 2, and 3 what she thinks about Daenerys Targaryen. But she and Arya both said, we don't trust her.
Mm-hmm.
We do not trust her. Then Sansa immediately takes this information and says it to Tyrion Lannister, who we have to, understand she and Tyrion have a different relationship than other people do with Tyrion.
She gave it to Tyrion knowing that Tyrion is a Dany loyalist.
Oh, absolutely.
So maybe she felt that if she was going to tell anybody who could do something productive with that information,
and that's
Tyrion
my point.
is the best bet.
That's my point, that she knew that telling Tyrion would eventually, I don't think she thought it would happen 2 episodes later, potentially, but she thought that this will be the undoing of Daenerys Targaryen if I tell Tyrion.
So I have a little headcanon here.
Okay.
I don't think a Dance of the Dragons is going to happen again. So I think Dany's going to be pushed to her limits.
Well, there's only one dragon, so
yeah. Well, yeah. Okay, so a dance with
but still
scorpions and dragons.
Yeah,
but I think I don't know. I know at one point Johnson's ghost up. He's missing an ear. Like, come on. Like, you could, like, poor ghost. But he sends him off with Tormund. But Tormund's, I think he says something to him like, come, something about wanting him to come north or something. I think that could be a hint at the future. He might, we might see Tormund and Ghost at one of the last scenes. I mean, because I feel like Jon will walk away from the throne. I don't think that's what he wants. I don't think it's going to make him happy. He's not going to be the next Robert Baratheon. He's going to give it to someone that needs it.
Tormund said 2 things that made me cock my eyebrow. One of them was when he told Jon, you have the North in you. You have the real North.
Yes.
The real North.
Which is a rabbit trail, harkens back to when I said that might be a Long Night reference, Long Night being the show that's going to later come out. He also said, in response to Jon saying farewell or goodbye, whatever, Tormund said, I hope not. Which gives me hope that we have not seen the last of Tormund. However, that was a very heartfelt hug between them. Mixed signals for me. I don't know about for you guys. Do you think we'll see Tormund again?
I think the key is Ghost. I do not believe, and you can argue, at least pet the good boy on the head. I mean, you don't know if you're going to come back from the South, but I think I don't know in what I don't know in what context.
Ghost.
Right. I don't know in what context, but I think Brett's right. I do not believe that Jon stays south. I do not believe that he takes the throne. I do not believe that he'll be able to live however it is with what has happened. And I think he'll go north. And I've always had this image of my head of him on a horse with Ghost by his side, just riding off into the
on a
sunset.
horse with no name.
Right. Just like a Western. Just
so we're clear.
See ya.
Arya's going to mimic him, and she's going to go somewhere else, I think. Or she'll die, but I think she's going to go somewhere else.
I have thoughts on Arya, and I don't think she's going to make it.
Well, she may, but the thing is, the last of the Starks, I think that refers to Sansa. It's Sansa. It's not Jon. It's not Bran. It's Sansa, I think.
I haven't quite decided who I might think it's about. When Jon left Winterfell, and it's a thought that I had, apparently not an original thought, and I'm glad, because it means maybe I'm not so stupid. When I first saw him leave Ghost behind, I was pissed.
Yep.
Like that, he lost an ear for you, motherfucker. You better go cut the remaining ear, scratch it. Anyway, but then I thought about it, and Jon, I don't know if he's embracing his Targaryen identity necessarily, but he seems to be, at the very least, subconsciously turning his back on his Stark identity. And that kind of, where they started to show that a little bit was when he kind of reprimanded his sisters in front of everybody in the War Council.
Yeah.
Just that whole parental, just he put his sisters in a place they don't belong. So I don't want to say in their place. They had every right to pipe up, because my notes say Sansa is right. I don't think he's doing it consciously, but I think a part of him is turning his back on his Stark identity. Leaving Ghost behind illustrated that.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And I think this just popped into my mind, but leaving Ghost in the North, whether it's Winterfell or the real North or whatever, it also preserves part of Jon Stark identity that he can go back to eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Jon stays in the South. I don't even know if Jon goes back to Winterfell. I could see him just being done with all this shit. Like, I can't just, the biggest analog to me, and I've had this conversation a lot with Heaving King on Twitter.
Hi, Grant.
Yeah, hi, Grant.
We love you.
I absolutely agree that there's a lot of Aragorn parallels to Jon. I've always seen Jon as Frodo, though. He can't live with the burden.
With his Sam.
Yeah, with his Sam. He cannot live with the burden of what has happened to him and his family in Westeros. And he'll come in like an Aragorn or a Cregan Stark or whatever, and he's going to do whatever duty he has to do to set things right. But he's not going to stick around for this. He will not be able to deal with it.
It's like a
and he deserves rest. I mean, Jon Snow deserves some rest.
But it's like Ned Stark's thing, like Ned Stark's arc, except not felled. Like he's gonna go through with it. He's gonna go south and he's gonna come back and then he's gonna go up north.
We have Arya and the Hound back together, which I think is great. I thought that their scene was really good. I want to go ahead and ask this question. We were going to wait till the end of the podcast, but we brought up the Valonqar earlier, especially in the fact that Jaime's now riding south.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very clear. I think we know why the Hound's going south. He's going south to finish off his brother.
Fuckhead.
Arya, I think, is going south to finish off her list, and Cersei is still on her list the last time we've checked in on it. Arya got the big kill, in my opinion, the Night King. Does she get the big kill with Cersei?
I think Jaime's going to do it, but I don't know. Because Yeah, I don't know. I think Jaime's gonna get that kill. Or Tyrion. I mean, they've set Tyrion up, but then they kind of set like Jaime. See, this is the thing. This is what the books do to us because both of them are really pissed off at her, and also I don't like the argument that the Valonqar is not mentioned in the show because Dany's not being able to be pregnant has been introduced in the show later. You know, I don't.
Right.
So like they're obviously going back and like picking parts through the book. So I think the Valonqar is a very valid thing in the show.
Yeah.
For the sake of my pride, I'm not going to outwardly try to guess whether or not she actually delivers the kill on Cersei, because to quote poor Quentin, sometimes our expectations are subverted.
Right.
Back in season 7, when Bran gave Arya that Valyrian steel dagger, he seemed hesitant. He kind of made a look, but he gave it to her anyway. And I remember I predicted 2 years ago she is going to do something detrimental to the army of the dead with that dagger, and she's going to die in the process. Obviously, I was only so correct about that.
That's a pretty good prediction.
That's
right. I didn't think she would actually take out the night.
I see where you're going with this, though.
And even when she like came out of nowhere, Superman did at him, and he grabbed her by the throat, I thought he would stab her, and then she'd stab him, double KO. I still think she's going to die using that dagger. You know, Bran felt it was absolutely essential to hand it to her. But like I said before, Bran shows little snippets of humanity here and there.
I like
that. He seemed hesitant. So I do think she's going to die, and I think that dagger is going to be in her hand when it happens. Whether or not she successfully kills Cersei or she fails at it, we're satisfied with her death, we're not satisfied. Doesn't matter.
Can I change my prediction now? Okay. The Hound is going to give her the kiss of life after he wins the Clegane Bowl. The Hound will die.
You're still on the Clegane Bowl. Or the kiss of life thing.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's got to happen. It bothers me that it hasn't happened in the show. It really does. Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen.
She is going back to Winterfell.
They both can't die, though. I thought she'd go west or something.
Yeah, I think like if Arya survives, if Arya survives, I don't think she sticks around. She's just not Arya Stark anymore.
She's just like Jon, you know. She's got to do her thing, you know.
I think Arya will try to kill Cersei, but I was very struck by the conversation that she and the Hound had riding down the King's Road when he says something like, if I'm in trouble again, or if I'm near death again, will you give me
will
you leave me to die?
Yeah.
And she says, probably. I don't think she's going to. I think what's going to happen is
he's going to have to do it.
He's going to need her. He's going to need her to help him defeat the Mountain or something like that. And she's going to have to make a choice. Does she save a friend who saved her, or does she fulfill killing Cersei? That's what I think is. That's what I think is going to happen.
God, I like it. I just don't.
In King's Landing with her.
I like it. I just don't. Yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
Now, to back up, like I was convinced Jaime Lannister would die in episode 3. I was like, this. They are not doing Valonqar.
Yeah, but we're having
Arya's going to be the one that kills Cersei. All that type of stuff. So I have no idea. I mean, nobody has any idea what the hell's going to happen on the show. Case in point,
I'm going to tinfoil
4 episodes.
I'm going to tinfoil half jokingly bullshit here.
Okay,
I can kind of, which I don't know if it would have payoff for any. It really wouldn't have that much payoff for anybody except for like Cersei stans, who are delightfully twisted people, by the way. Depends on how they present themselves. It don't matter. Moving along, I can completely see Cersei pulling a Cleopatra and not letting anyone take her out, and just I can see her doing it herself if she sees she's absolutely cornered. And yet at the same time, I think she does care about her unborn child.
Yeah.
So I don't make any predictions as to who's going to take out Cersei, because I don't know. I can see it going a few different ways, and I don't want to publicly be wrong, and I have a lot of investment in life and being right. I'm very careful to only open my mouth if I'm absolutely sure that I'm right. I'm very cocky like that. I think it's going to be someone we maybe did not expect, and whether that's well done or not, we shall see. But
right, I mean, I think the most likely person is Jaime, but
Correct.
There's still the possibility that Euron finds out that she's been duping him the whole time, and he, you know, he's not going to live with that, or he's not going to deal with, especially a woman doing that to him. So I think that's a possibility as well.
They might get if Cersei and Euron get married, he's totally going to kill her real quick. So watch out for that. If they have a wedding, done. She's done.
She's not.
Yeah, I know. She's Lena.
Pretty astute about that, which I'm gonna red light on what we're saying so that I can say right now. Cersei had about 5 minutes of screen time during this entire episode.
Yeah,
and
she's got it. Yeah, you're right.
Is delivered the best performance out of anyone in this episode. She just little subtle things right down to when she claimed that the baby was Euron's. Just the back and forth with her facial expressions that just delivered. This pleases me, you know. She just, the way she was like, this fuck boy, and then as soon as he looks back at her, she's like, yay, we're happy. So she delivered the all-time best performance, even if I'm just really angry about it.
No, you're right though. She hasn't had a lot of screen time, and you're right though. Like I think there's some big stuff happening. At least with the next episode. I think a lot of people think she's dying next episode. I don't think she's dying next episode. It's 2.5 episodes. I think they're gonna maybe the first half.
She might get to a point where she, on the off chance that it's still recording, even though I can't see or hear you, Brett.
No.
I think there's a bit of a chance that she will fall from power, but still survive to the last episode. Because the way that it's currently setting things up, it does feel like Cersei can't. It would be just narratively, in a linear way, it would kind of feel weird if Cersei is still in power by the last episode while we're dealing with the Dany Jon dynamic on top of it. She doesn't necessarily have to die to fall from power.
Yeah. Which I kind of hope that for her.
I don't presently see her surviving the series.
Yeah.
She's just been, you feel for her. Lena
absolutely.
does a wonderful job. Book Cersei is if morbid, she's hilarious. You know, she is the classic case of a narcissistic mother. She does not love her children. She loves her children as an extension of herself, and is not love.
She's the woman that calls the managers.
Therefore, Book Cersei, like I said, she's great fun if you're morbid, which I am, but it's
me too.
However, Lena Headey, even show Cersei is just a terrible human being, Lena Headey humanizes her, and you find yourself, after being super livid with something that Cersei did, find yourself oddly feeling sorry for her. And even there are some moments where you think, this is a terrible human being that just did this terrible thing. I have anxiety, but yes, queen. Like, that whole we all hate Dorne, show Dorne. Okay. That whole scene with Tyene and
Ilaria.
Thank you. Ilaria Sand in the dungeons.
Oh, yeah.
It was terrible and it was gut-wrenching, but at the same time, depending on your take on the word deserve, it's not like Cersei decided to do that out of the clear blue sky. She had great motivation to do that, but you just think this is a shitty thing to do to another human being, even in a medieval setting.
Right.
But all the same, just like, fuck yeah, Cersei.
Yeah. All right, so I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on this next topic, but we got Bronn. Bronn. Well, first of all, I think Jaime and Tyrion were in the Wintertown. That's what it seemed like to me, because a lot of people are saying, did Bronn just roll up in Winterfell and come in on them? But if you look at it, it kind of seems like they're in an inn or a tavern. So I assume that's the Wintertown.
You do see Winterfell in the background.
A lot of people worried about what was going to happen with this plot line.
I was worried too, because I was like, oh shit. Like,
yeah. But Bronn literally shows up and basically says, see you in episode 6. I mean, that's what happened.
Yeah.
I think my biggest issue with that scene, as a scene in itself, it's amusing, yes.
Yeah.
I kind of checked out each time I watched it. I just don't understand how it would tie into the overall plot unless they're kind of going to, they being showrunners and screenwriters, they kind of need to pull a rabbit out of their hat to make me care about Bronn at this point. I feel like a lot of people feel this way, but I really think he should have died in the Field of Fire.
I agree.
Yeah.
What we're calling the Field of Fire, I guess. He hasn't really served a whole lot of narrative purpose for, 7 episodes?
Right.
No? At least? Because it's been, 4 to 4, 7 episodes in between. It don't matter.
There's been some episodes, I'm not counting. I just know there's been a lot of episodes.
Yeah. I hope that with Bronn, there ends up being payoff. I don't have a lot of faith in the showrunners to absolutely give us that payoff that, I just don't see it. I don't visually see it right now.
Well, I think you're right. The payoff is in Tyrion or Jaime or both of them. I don't think it'll be both of them, but one of them surviving and giving Bronn something in the end, or someone giving Bronn something in the end. I mean, it seems like to me,
I think that's the route too.
They almost check the box that, okay, well, we conceived of this plot in episode 1 and we either abandoned it, or this was simply Jerome Flynn can't be in the same setting as Lena Headey, so we moved him along, and we just wanted to make sure that going into episode 5, Tyrion and Jaime's lives are at risk, but not from Bronn, so he's going to go check out, and then we'll get back to him. I mean, it's not a terrible scene, like you all said, but it's very odd placed in this episode. The
it
next
worried
episode
me.
The next episode is the penultimate episode. It's the second to last episode ever, and I guess it makes sense. I would rather it be in this episode to just kind of move it on.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the setup for the big climax that's coming next episode, and then the falling action in episode 10. So I still think it's very odd. I mean, first of all, why even have this plot line this season? I mean, they could have done
that's
something completely different.
That's my question with it. And it's like following Dave and Dan, sometimes logic goes out the window, because that was my thing with Beric. Like, why is he even here if he's not going to give the kiss of life, and then he just gets stabbed in the back a bunch of times and saves Arya. He doesn't even so I was really wrong about that. So I'm thinking with Bronn, like my initial thoughts with Bronn is why did he not go north with Jaime in the first place in season 7, and then now we get this scene, and I'm like, oh, he's definitely gonna. My initial thought is, oh, he's set up to kill one of them eventually, or because he should have, from a fan standpoint, or from anything, he should have been in the Battle of Winterfell, and then we should have maybe he would have died or something. But now he's still here, and he's set up to kill one of them. But I actually at this point I don't think he's going to do it. So I don't know why. I don't know why this. Not to be so negative, but that this scene really doesn't matter, I think, in the grand scheme of things.
Right. A weird, I don't know if it was necessarily a dislike, but a question that was raised to me was, I've really only watched season 7 maybe twice, so I don't remember. Did Jaime offer Randall Tarly wardenship? Is that a word? Offer him?
He did. Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Of Highgarden. Of Highgarden.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I just remember Jaime saying, I can think of no one better to have this role than Randall Tarly, and then segue over to Sam Tarly right there. Yep. With that segue, I do think that it basically insinuates Sam Tarly might end up being Warden of the South. That's not a prediction. I'm just saying I believe it insinuated as much. Are we going to see a conflict of interest with that, with the Lannister brothers, with whatever's left of House Tarly, with Bronn, what was promised to him? It's just a jumbled mess for me to... That's why I kind of checked out. It's like, I'm too lazy to try to figure this out. It doesn't matter to me.
It makes sense, though, with Jaime butting in to Tyrion's thing. Like, we're not going to give Highgarden to someone like you. So it makes sense, because, like, really, like, why would Jaime give a shit? I mean, he's kind of broken down anyway. I don't know. So.
I was just getting ready to say that Bronn's only hope is Jaime or Tyrion surviving, and I'm not sure either of them do. But now that I think about it,
Bronn might be sure of it. Bronn might make sure one of them survives.
That is true. He's got the connection to Pod, so Pod could be the outlet for the future for Bronn if he survives the series, if he comes back into the equation. I definitely don't think whoever rules is going to give him Highgarden, but he might get a nice look. It'd be kind of funny if they just send him back to Stokeworth and like here, and he's like, "Fuck, I had this before."
I had a thought, one last thought, and then no more Bronn. What if, now it's messy if this is the case, but what if the show still has Bronn around, offered Highgarden, yada yada, so that he has motivation to later on try to save one of the Lannister brothers when one of those said brothers is in a bind.
Yeah,
I see that. It's kind of set up because he had the gold and he dropped it, and he kind of went. I could see that happening. With the loot train battle is what I'm referencing. So, I could see him dying to save one of them maybe, and then I hope both of them live, but I could see him dying to save the last one of them, and then he doesn't get his reward because he did something honorable for once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be a nice noble end for Bronn. All right, so let's move on. We have 2 major set pieces that end this episode. The first is Dany's arrival back at Dragonstone, and we've already talked about the Euron Greyjoy attack, so we don't need to spend much time on that. But just to rehash what happened, Dany top Drogon and flying with Rhaegal. Her fleet is anchored, and the Greyjoy fleet attacks. They kill Rhaegal. Fire at Drogon. Dany swerves at the last moment and flies out, and then and I really wish I felt more for Rhaegal in this moment. I want to feel more for a dragon and a beast, but it was just out of nowhere, and I just, it's really sad that they're rushing this. But anyways, the Greyjoys, I say the Greyjoys, the Iron Fleet under Euron's command then decimates Dany's fleet that is anchored. Mm-hmm. And he has captured Missandei. They find that out when they wash on the shore. But then we get a couple exchanges that I think are very interesting as Dany and Tyrion and Varys and Grey Worm try to figure out what to do. So first of all, Dany and Grey Worm are adamant about marching on King's Landing, that they want to go now. Let's go now. We've got to save Missandei. We've got to pay back Cersei for what she's done. And Tyrion makes the point that it's going to be a fortnight. It's going to be 2 more weeks probably before Jon and the Dothraki and the rest of our forces make it to the capital.
Yeah.
And Varys is very concerned about Dany attacking in the state of mind she's in. And I don't want to say Mad Queen. We're going to talk about that toward the end. But she's angry. She's been ambushed 3 times. Her forces have dwindled. 2 of her children have died. She's lost one of her closest advisors and friends. She lost Jorah in the north. And she wants to go. And Varys tells her, this is a mistake. You are going to do something at King's Landing that is going to blow up in our face. Yeah. And she says this interesting quote to Varys. She says, "Do you believe we're here for a reason, Lord Varys? I'm here to free the world from tyrants. That is my destiny, and I will serve it no matter the cost." That has Stannis vibes written all over it. That
yes,
she is going to push forward. Before the fleet is attacked, we get the first of 2 exchanges between Varys and Tyrion. So we know that Sansa has told Tyrion the truth about Jon. Now, we talked earlier about why she did that. Was that a plot by her to unravel Dany's support? Did she, she has a relationship with Tyrion, so was she kind of telling him to see what he thinks should be done about it? But anyways, Tyrion tells Varys, and Varys very clearly on the boat says he has a better claim. He is a war hero. He's viewed better. I've got a lot of concerns about our queen. Now, fast forward to the throne room on Dragonstone after they've lost the second dragon. They've lost a substantial portion of their fleet and their army. Varys pretty much says, I see the Mad King in her, and I am going to do whatever it takes to make sure that she doesn't do something terrible, which I assume means he's willing to step in and kill her if he needs to.
I really thought he was going to kill Tyrion in that moment because Tyrion wasn't. I really thought for a moment because Tyrion's like, kind of going against him, and he's like, I'm going to do what it takes. So I don't know. So, Alisha, we've talked long enough.
What's your thoughts on everything that happened at Dragonstone with and let's cap it off with the fact that Tyrion gets Dany to agree to let's go to King's Landing. Let's tell Cersei she has an opportunity to surrender. Mm-hmm. And Dany basically says, okay, the world needs to see that Daenerys Targaryen offered peace, offered surrender before fire and blood descends upon them.
Well, I will say I'm acknowledging the fact that this episode did very wonky things with the consistency of Varys's character and his motives and whatever. But I remember back in season 3 when he was speaking on Littlefinger to Olenna Tyrell, I quite enjoy him, but he would see this whole country or world burn if he could be king of the ashes.
Right.
Flash forward to season 7. Dany is talking to Olenna, who proceeds to basically, because she's in fuck it mode, be like, you're a dragon, light him up. And Dany is protesting, saying, I'm not here to be queen of the ashes. Varys has obvious concerns. I don't quite understand why it seems he's already team Jon no matter what, even imploring Dany to do the right thing and think things through. Yeah. But there has been that consistency in the past, even if this episode is just what the fuck. There has been that consistency in the past of him doing whatever he has to do, jumping whatever ship he has to jump to make sure that the realm is not ruled by a tyrant or I don't think Dany's mad, but a mad queen or anything like that. So what I found interesting about this exchange between Tyrion and Varys in the throne room, last time we saw Tyrion say, please don't, in the manner that he did to Varys, he was saying it to Shay during his trial in season 4.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Things did not play out well for Shay. So that's not the only thing that leads me to believe things aren't going to turn out well for Varys.
No wonder that made me feel so uncomfortable. Okay.
Right. The part that vexes me is Tyrion, from what I gathered, is very much aware that Varys is about to do something stupid. And it doesn't really seem like he is doing anything about it. He's just lamenting, oh, please don't. You guys, no. And I totally get it. Tyrion's in all sorts of rocks and hard places with conflicts of interest. I had so much to say about Varys before and his motives, but having more time to sit and think about this, I don't understand why he dropped the line about Cox being important. I don't understand why he seemed so... He just, before even warning Dany or even trying to give her good counsel or even consolation for her losses, he seemed set on Jon from the moment he heard Jon was the true heir. I just don't understand anymore. I thought I had a grasp on it, but he's gonna dump shit. Dany's gonna burn him alive, like she threatened to.
I think that's what's gonna happen in the show, and I think it has to do with the combined Aegon plot, but they're kind of mixing it all together. So I could totally see him burning for Jon in the show. I could never see that in the books. I could never see that, but I could see how he would jump ship because that's kind of what he does in the books. But I don't know. I don't know if the writing's gonna be great with it. The combinations. I don't know, and the consolidations, but that could happen. I don't know though. I don't know. This show surprised me this entire season, and I kind of don't even want to make predictions anymore. we've been so wrong. Like the whole fandom, really.
I do like the comment that you made, Brett, about the fact that separate the idea of the Mad Queen, the Mad King, from Varys's mind, and go with the Stannis. The fact that, you know, he famously says that there's no creature half so terrifying as a truly just man.
Yeah.
That someone who is unbending, unwilling, all of these things frighten Varys in the books about Stannis Baratheon. Now, part of that is the magic element that surrounds Melisandre and Stannis, etc. But we also know that while Varys says he's for the realm, in the books, he also wants a puppet on a string. He's a mummer. He wants someone he can control and manipulate and push to do what he thinks is right. The show has presented, for a long time, Varys as altruistic. Almost the yin to Littlefinger's yang, that one's black, one's white, one is good, one is evil. You know, these kind of two combatants locked in the struggle for what's good, what's right. But let's not forget that Varys served the Mad King for a number of years. Let's not forget that, and this is true in the show because Jaime says it, that Varys whispered a lot of those names and conspiracies into the Mad King's ears. Let's not forget that when the Lannisters showed up at the gates.
Oh my, Travis.
Yes.
He whispered names in the ears. Is he whispering names in Tyrion's ears? And we're getting it wrong.
Explain what you mean there.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you, well, I've never done this, but when you kind of, it's kind of like the manipulation thing where you kind of when you keep hearing something and then someone kind of picks it up and they think it's their own idea. So like Tyrion or
Timon and Pumbaa.
What?
Timon and Pumbaa.
Yes.
Perfect.
Tyrion and Varys make a pretty good Timon and Pumbaa.
But
wow,
that's a good idea. Wait a minute, I have an idea.
Yes.
Exactly what.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So, but basically, you keep hearing an idea, and then basically it becomes true because you've heard it so much. You just subconsciously think it's fact. So Tyrion. I mean, I don't know if it's going to go that deep, but continue.
It could be. I just think it's important for everyone out there to remember that. And I don't want to call out the person, but I had a conversation with someone today that was adamant that, you know, Varys knows the insanity of the Mad King, so he's a very good testament for what's happening to Daenerys. And I said, he enabled the Mad King. He pushed conspiracies in the Mad King's ears. When the Lannisters show up at the gates, Varys was saying, don't open the gates. And it wasn't at that point that there was an alternative. Rhaegar was dead at that point. So it's not like Varys was waiting for Rhaegar to ride back in town and overthrow his father. I just think that for some reason...
well, remember there's Viserys as well at that time.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. That is true. Okay. That is a fair, yes, that is a fair point.
But that's weird that he would say, don't open the gates too.
Well, yeah, because he knew, and perhaps
I think he thought he was going to die though. If
that he could have thought he was going to die, or right. Yeah.
Speaking
and he may have been waiting for Robert and Ned to get there and kind of fix the situation. But I don't think I don't think we should necessarily 100% trust Varys's point of view when it comes to what a Mad Queen is.
No, definitely
Alisha.
not.
I totally acknowledge the fact that there's a astronomically good chance that this is not the case. What if he came in the service of the Mad King and things kind of got out of control while Varys was there living in the Red Keep, and he found that whatever his endgame was, what if he found that his best way of survival right then and there was to just keep feeding the Mad King the information that Ares wanted?
Yep. So let's just wrap up this point. Let's is there anything else to say on Varys and Tyrion and Dany at Dragonstone?
I think Varys is gonna be the one ending up doing something stupid. As much as he's afraid Dany's gonna do it, he's setting himself. He's, for someone that's so smart and just sees things 5 steps ahead of the game, he's being stupid. Why divulge to someone who is clearly a Dany loyalist at this point? Oh, I have these plans. These ominous plans.
Right.
I have a bad.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense. I mean, I think he trusts Tyrion. He likes Tyrion. He feels comfortable with Tyrion. I think he also, that may make him also not want to see Tyrion go down with the ship, if you will.
True.
But you made a good point while we weren't recording, that Varys does have that tendency to support the small folk because he was literally in a ditch, used and abused by a warlock. And, on another episode, it wasn't our episode, it was the Night's Cast that Brett and I were on. There was a great comparison made that Davos and Melisandre and Varys have a lot of similarities, if you think about it, that both are lowborn, they rise up, they have the ears of kings and lords, and they're all trying to do what they think is best in their own way. So I think that's an interesting thought, that I think he does genuinely care about the small folk. So I think we have to take him at his word that he doesn't want to see a bunch of people die. I don't think anyone wants to see a bunch of people die. I definitely don't think even Daenerys wants to see a bunch of people die.
No, she doesn't. And Varys doesn't like to see abuse of power, whether that be rich people power, mystical powers. Did I say rich people power? Power of wealth.
Oh, yeah.
Rich people power.
Yes, I went to college. He doesn't like to see the abuse of power, and I love that scene in season 2 where he tells Tyrion a little riddle about power residing where men think it does. I'm just left a little vexed and unfulfilled with the Varys scenes I have seen up to this point. I'm hoping there's payoff in later episodes.
Yeah. Let's transition to someone who does want to see people die. Cersei Lannister she has opened the gates of King's Landing, and it appears part of the Red Keep at least, and she's bringing the commoners in under the guise that the usurper is coming, the Dragon Queen is coming. Come in here and I will protect you. She's putting these people in harm's way intentionally, one, to try and stop Dany's potential attack, but also to make the death toll be so catastrophic and so significant if Dany takes the city that she'll be blamed for killing all of these people.
And I don't know if you noticed it, but on the ramparts, when the people were filing into King's Landing, there were barrels everywhere. And we can only probably surmise that it's probably not just pitch and oil.
Oh my God.
There's probably going to be wildfire brought into this equation, which is going to be, detrimental to Dany using the dragons if she ends up attacking King's Landing.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, there are barrels all over the walls. They're piled up around the gates and stuff. Now obviously in a castle, a barrel is a pretty normal thing, but she's intentionally putting people in harm's way, and she's going to use all the resources she has at her disposal to.
And there's wildfire.
Stop them.
Yeah,
wildfire.
Yeah. This is what disappoints me too. I would have really have loved to have seen all of the colors of fire. Like if Winterfell would have fallen and everyone had to run south and fight together, because you would have gotten the wildfire, the green. You would have gotten Viserion blowing his blue fire, and then the red fire, and then it would have been cool. It would have been reminiscent of the Dance of the Dragons, because in the books they all have different color fire. But
yeah,
so I'm really sad that they didn't go for that fucking spectacle, but they didn't. They made their choices. So, but I mean, cool spectacles, but no. I mean, that was a little off topic, but
Dany and Tyrion and Varys and Grey Worm and her Unsullied, which I'm not really sure if this is all of her Unsullied that's left or what. But they show up at the gates of King's Landing. They demand Cersei surrender. Tyrion has an exchange with Qyburn. You can't talk to Qyburn. He's fucking crazy.
He reminds me of the guy from, I haven't seen Endgame yet, but the guy from Infinity Wars at the very beginning, the guy that's preaching about Thanos.
Oh, yes.
He reminds me of that guy.
That's pretty good, yes. So Tyrion gets nowhere with Qyburn, and he walks right toward the gate, tries to appeal to his sister. Again, as we said earlier in this episode, Tyrion, your sister's a lost cause. You need to move the fuck on. But he does his best to try and get her to realize. And there's a moment in Cersei's eyes where she has that look like, I've gone too far. I can't come back now. Everybody knows a friend or a family member or something in TV or film that you've seen before, those characters where they can't, I can't give up now. I can't come back. Do you understand? And she has this glint in her eyes, these tears in her eyes that she wishes she could. I really think that. I think the portrayal Cersei wishes she could, but she can't. And she makes the fateful decision to have Missandei executed solely on the purpose, in my opinion, I think you all will probably agree, to antagonize Dany into attacking.
I kind of feel this because sometimes I have this personality where I'm like, just fuck it, let's burn that bridge, and then just go a step forward. And I think that's what she did, but I mean in the most extreme way, like the most, like so. Yeah, I think that's what she did. I think she had she was at a crossroads. And it was just like, yep, well, let's do it. Yeah.
I kind of believe there's a possibility Cersei thinks there might be a chance that she could win, but she's not going down without swinging. I think Cersei knows that there's not a guaranteed chance she's got this victory in the bag. But it's kind of like you said, she can't go back. And I truly believe there are understandable, say what you will about self-fulfilling prophecy and Cersei putting herself where she is. Whatever, all said and done, here we are. Cersei cannot trust that Dany is going to keep her word to give her life. And what does that life mean? Is that imprisonment? Is that going back to Casterly Rock? Is that exile? What is that to Cersei? There is that chance that she is trying to antagonize Dany into an attack. There could also be that chance that Cersei believes she could very well win this, and she's flexing.
Yeah.
And flexing, I don't want to use that term because I don't want to run the risk of seeming like I'm downplaying Missandei's death, because I personally don't love the way Missandei was handled in this episode, or we'll get to that. I think that Tyrion was right when he said, "You're not a monster." But Cersei believes she is a monster.
That would go...
This was a hard sequel.
That goes hand in hand with what Jamie says, too, in the same episode.
Oh, yes.
So,
yep.
So you have a point, but continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just want to throw
Cersei, you know, Aziz over at History Westeros, he brought up a very good point today through one of his Parallel Lives tweets. Love those tweets, by the way. They're amazing. Cersei and Dany, the experiences they have parallel each other quite a bit in ways that people don't always think about. It's just that they have made different decisions based on those traumas, but they've been through the same trauma, essentially. Cersei, as hateful as she can be, as misguided as she is, when you think about Cersei's life, it's been shitty. All that money, all that power, all that high station she had, and she still got this shit end of the stick. She's clinging to power, yes. She loves power. Power is power. And I'm just going to come out and say, I hate that they made Cersei pregnant right here, right now, because her pregnancy isn't far enough progressed that there is time to really hope that that child is born before Cersei meets her end. It just bothers me that they created this. I don't know where that whole dynamic is going, but I feel bad for Cersei. I think Cersei's a bad person. I think what Cersei did tonight is super shitty. I don't excuse Cersei's actions, but I pity her. And Tyrion pities her too. And at the end of the day, that is his sister. I do love the scene where she raised up her hands like she was going to execute him with the arrows, and she changed her mind. That was, some people might think that was stupid and unnecessary. I thought it was a perfect touch, to kind of convey, she might listen to him a little bit. She didn't listen to him, but it did resonate. I don't think that it's going to resonate enough that she is going to make good choices from this point on. But it also served to show Cersei is a shitty person. Cersei is going to do this awful, shitty thing, but she's a human being at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They're humanizing her.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to let that be before I rabbit trail.
Right. But you can't, this is the good thing about Lena Headey and the show Cersei and the show itself. Even though she is, I think, the villain now, we still know all of the trauma and abuse that she's endured. And we have that pity for her. And her arc, Cersei's arc in the show is phenomenal. That it is a phenomenal arc. The character is very intriguing. I don't like her. I hope she burns alive or Jaime chokes her. But I'll feel terrible knowing that Cersei Lannister is no longer a character on this show, whether she dies next episode or she dies in episode 6 or whatever. It will feel like we've lost something in this world. I think that,
I love exactly what you said about her, Alisha, that she, well, actually, I think Brett said it, that she knows she's a bad person, just like Jamie knows that he's a bad person. And
well, Alisha said that, and I just tacked on the Jamie thing.
Okay, well, but credit to both of you. And it seems, it's funny to go back to Daenerys's quote earlier about, that she plans to serve her destiny no matter the cost. All of these characters seem like they're on a path to serving some predetermined destiny that, it's all they can see for themselves. And I don't know how these people break out of that cycle. Will we actually get that in the end? This cycle, this wheel, whatever is broken, or are these people doomed to repeat the mistakes of their parents and their grandparents and so on? I mean, I always knew we'd get a bittersweet ending because George said we would, but this is a fucking tragedy that's getting ready to unfold in front of us. And I'm all for tragedy and watching it and thinking about it, but man, I don't know where the hope comes in this show in the next couple episodes. It's weighing my heart down.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You kind of said what I'm thinking. It is very much a tragedy. I don't know. I think the will is going to break, as Danny says, but I don't think Danny's going to be there. I think she might be the cause of the break, or maybe, I don't know. She's going to have something to do with it. I don't know if it's because of her actions. Other people break it. I don't. Yeah. I mean, you would think it'd be Cersei, right? That people see how fucking terrible she is. Like, I don't understand why. I don't know, because I don't understand why people are calling Danny the mad, or worried about Danny's well-being when you've got Cersei, who's actually kind of competent in the show, but really fucking vengeful. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's end on the actual plot of the episode by discussing Missandei's execution. Alisha, since you've already made some comments that you think it's very problematic, why don't you start us with why you didn't like? I mean, obviously we don't want to see Missandei die.
No.
But why you think this was either a mistake or you didn't like it?
Okay, so as a person of color, as a woman who is also a person of color, I have noticed throughout the seasons that Missandei they haven't given her depth. And I believe that is how they have failed Missandei as a woman of color, as a person of color. It's like she's been decoration. They've made a few attempts here and there to kind of give her depth, but the writing is only going to do so much for you. I think oftentimes when the writing's bad, but a scene is still good, is because the actors are just phenomenal in the show and they pull you in despite shitty writing. I think that Missandei would have been executed in front of Daenerys in that scene regardless. I feel that the writers would have chosen the path that Missandei would be executed the way she was, despite her color. I don't think the execution in itself is the show mistreating people of color. I think how they have treated her character up to this point is a disappointment toward a person of color. For a moment at the beginning of the season, it's like they were going to acknowledge, finally, Grey Worm and Missandei, they face racism. Like the way the Northerners were looking at them. Like, I've only seen so much in my life of I only remember so much of the Kevin Costner Robin Hood film.
Oh yeah.
But I remember a scene where a little Anglo boy walks up to Morgan Freeman and calls him painted.
Yeah,
and
did God paint you is the line.
Did God paint you? Yes. Yeah. And that's all I could think about during that scene. I'm not saying like, yes, I totally love the way the kids were looking at them like they're painted. I'm saying, oh, we're acknowledging this.
Right.
And they didn't do anything productive with it. My disappointment as a person of color, I will say, yes, David and Dan have dropped the ball on treating people of color well.
Confederates, David and Dan?
You know, I will admit, it took me a hot minute when that announcement was first made to realize why it was problematic. And it actually took a white person to point out to me, no. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Actually, I'm going to give her a shout out. Jinx Lear.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
She is a wonderful advocate for anybody who is downtrodden upon. Anyway, love Jinx. She's amazing. Spitfire too. Love it. But anyway, rabbit trail aside, they just treated her, Missandei, Natalie Emmanuel. It's like she was decoration. There was it's like they kind of half-heartedly attempted a few times, like, we're going to write in that Grey Worm. Okay, Dad, if you're listening, cover your ears for like 5 seconds, okay? All right. We're going to point out that Grey Worm knows where the clitoris is, okay? But then nothing really... It's like they kind of half-heartedly tried to give people of color more of a plot line than it did. I think that an oversight on David and Dan's part, Missandei is a Black woman who is literally a slave. And then not only do you literally in this woman's life, back in chains, this Black woman, by the way, but you panned in on her chains right after Cersei says, so much for the breaker of chains. Bad call. I
didn't even I mean, this is my privilege, but I didn't even pay attention to that. So like, that didn't even cross my mind that, oh my God, she is in chains. Yes. Yeah.
I don't think that,
it's a bad call, I think. Yeah.
I don't think that they intended that to be offensive, but the oversight in itself is problematic.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we talked earlier in the episode that just the fact that they don't have that perspective, that worldview is what makes a lot of these scenes and a lot of these attempts problematic, that they just don't get it.
In the books, it does of course it does a better job because, well, books show. Anyway, in the books, you see exactly how Dany and Missandei could be so bonded and so attached to each other, and how if this were a scene, this wouldn't be a scene in the books, but hypothetically, if it were a scene in the book, you would be able, Dany's anguish would be palpable. I did not say that correctly. It's been a day.
I don't know how to say that, so you're good.
So the scenes that come to the top of my head between Daenerys and Missandei in the show, the only time you've ever seen them truly, I suppose, the only 2 times I can think of where it seems like, yes, they're friends, they're girls, is in the fighting pits, when they think this is the end and they hold hands. But that just might be a normal human reaction to a stressful situation, like thinking you're going to die by stabby stab. And when they were discussing Missandei's sex life,
right?
So many of the scenes between them where they try to make Daenerys and Missandei seem like they're bonding seem very wooden to me. It falls flat. There's a scene where Daenerys is braiding Masunday's hair, and
it's like two high school girls.
Right, but Masunday seems, her body language, she just doesn't seem comfortable.
It's like it's like Mean Girls, you know.
Right, right, and there's it just, even when Danny decides to ask Masunday's opinion on what do you think I should do, I felt nothing during that scene where Masunday was like, well, I've seen you ignore counselors, and I've seen you follow what they say, and I've heard you follow your heart. I feel as if Masunday's death doesn't really add to the narrative. It doesn't add depth to it. Now that I've gotten that rant about the mistreatment of her character as a person of color, now that I've gotten that out of the way, I feel free to say this without someone misinterpreting what I'm trying to say. I don't think the actual execution of her execution was racist in itself, because I think they would have been stupid and done that if it were a white actress.
Right.
It just doesn't. I'm not going to pretend like I gave a whole lot of shits about Masunday before this, but at the same time, that's kind of the point of my rant.
Right.
It just, they haven't. So for me, in a very matter of fact context, I can take away from this, oh, this pissed Danny off. Narratively, it's going to push her a little bit further to the edge. As far as what I felt during that scene, I was left kind of numb. Not in a I'm traumatized numb sort of way, just I didn't feel anything in that scene. And I think we can all agree that we believe art is good because that art makes us feel something, be that music, paintings, poetry, reading, a show. That was not good art because I didn't feel shit beyond what the fuck.
No, I completely agree, because I mean, I kind of felt the same way. It's like I really liked the actress. I did, but that death was not, it wasn't shocking to me. I kind of expected it. Like as soon as like that shocking, like the shocking, and this is in quotation marks, where she's in Cersei's in the Red Keep, and you know Cersei walks past her. I'm like, oh yeah, they're gonna kill her. You know, it just wasn't.
There's no rescue mission for that one.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I did feel very sorry for Grey Worm.
I was about to interject with that.
I really felt, you know, and here's the thing. Let's back up and say their conversation in episode 2, where they basically say, let's go to the Caribbean. Let's go somewhere warm, you know, a beach, something beautiful. Like I thought for sure, all right, well, Grey Worm's gonna die, and then he didn't die, and I thought, well, okay, well, he's obviously gonna die King's Landing, and then Missandei died. I mean, like I was genuinely surprised. I never expected Missandei to die. I wasn't sure she'd survive in the end, but it was really shocking. I don't think I sat there and
I get what you're saying. It was shocking, but it wasn't.
It was shocking, but it was right. It was.
It wasn't a big
it
character death.
No, it wasn't. Exactly right, and its purpose. What's its purpose? What did it serve? That, you know, I think it's to make Dany even more. Well, she's lost a dragon. They just killed one of her actual children. They've decimated her fleet. They've done all these things. Like, again, I've never not liked Dany, but I've never rode the Dany train hard. But
You're not a Dannerman?
I think I'm
Danner
starting
woman.
to be.
Danner woman.
After some of the arguments I had today, I think I'm like, fuck it. I'm getting on this dragon and I'm going to Dan. All of this is done to make Dany more angry and make Dany more isolated. And it doesn't give the character Missandei what she deserves. She's just a tool for Cersei to make things worse for Dany and for Dany to be more angry. And I think that's not good. That's not good, and it's not fair to the character.
It's almost kind of worse because I was going to compare it to Lyanna Mormont's death. Like she's got a fandom that cares about her, but it's. If she dies, I mean, it's shocking to some people, but it's not a big gut punch the way it should have been. I mean, well, I wouldn't even say that should have been, but.
All right, so we have talked the plot points, the character moments of this episode to death. Let's talk real quick about where we think things might go in the next episode. And I don't want to talk about what the plot will be, who will win the battle, how all that will occur. Let's talk about maybe a character moment or what a character might do and why it's important to understand their mindset. Going into this battle of King's Landing, this potential final conflict in Game of Thrones. Alisha, you want to kick us off with a little bit of speculation here?
Okay. I want to be very careful not to speculate too much because, as we've said multiple times, there's just too much that they pull out of nowhere going forward. I do get very frustrated at the treatment of Dany that I see from casual viewers, invested viewers, book readers, the whole 9 yards. Something to keep in mind about Daenerys, and I'm not saying I think she's going to light up King's Landing. I'm not saying she won't. I'm not saying I think she's right or wrong. Not that I don't have opinions about all those things. I'm saying we're leaving that off the table. Put yourself in Dany's position and look at it this way. This girl was born in exile. The only person who, quote unquote, loved or took after her was her abusive and embittered older brother. She has been told her entire life, you are a Targaryen, this is your identity. But these aspects of being a Targaryen have been utterly stripped away from us beyond the throne is ours, the throne is ours, the throne is ours. Arguments about what Viserys' death meant to Dany aside, she lost her brother. She was sold into slavery. She was raped by her husband. Whether you agree with it or not, she fell in love. Like, bottom line is she did fall in love with that man. She lost that man. On top of it, she lost a child. Devastating in itself, even if none of those other things took place. She has nothing when it comes down to it but her Targaryen identity. And to her Targaryen identity is that throne. She doesn't have family. The closest thing she has to family is what her ancestors and her family had, which is the 7 kingdoms. She wants, and in my opinion, she wants the throne badly, not because she's a megalomaniac, not because she's power hungry, because even if subconsciously, that's the closest thing to family she is ever going to have, to an identity she's ever going to have. She's lonely. It's pointed out so many times in this episode, and she doesn't have anyone. Back in, I think it's episode 1, when she arrives in Winterfell with Jon and the dragons fly overhead, people are terrified, they go running. You see her smirk.
Yep.
I don't think she should have smirked the way that she did, but I don't think she was relishing in people's fear. She was relishing in, these are my dragons. These dragons are just awe and wonder and horror and everything in between. And they're my children, and it gives me comfort. That's what I have to say about Daenerys. However, whatever she does moving forward, it's not justifying anything. But you have to keep in mind, A, a lot of the men hating on her wouldn't be as harsh on her if it were a guy doing all of this. So that's out of the way. B, what would you do in her position? She's isolated. She's lonely. There's not a person in this world that can say, in Dany's exact position here and now, they would really do anything other than what she's about to do.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And that's my spiel.
I'm gonna build on that. I think Dany's gonna do what I would do in that situation. I would freak out. I would attack the city. I would not know that Cersei has wildfire because it would be a freak out. I don't know, but I think she's gonna freak out. I think she's gonna freak out and attack the city. I think Drogon might go down. I think she's gonna obliterate her army. I don't know. I just think Jon's gonna come down the King's Road and maybe Cregan Stark it a little bit. Maybe Dany will still be around to rain some fire and blood down too. Yeah, I don't know. I just talked myself out of it. I don't know.
It's like a therapy session.
Yeah, I know.
I am convinced that in the book she dies on Dragonback. I kind of wonder if I have this whole headcanon in the books. It's tragic. I kind of wonder if in the show, if she dies, it won't be on Dragonback. I really hope she doesn't torch King's Landing in fuck it mode. I don't care. I hope that if she does end up torching King's Landing, it's because it's more an accident in the sense of she's not thinking clearly and she thinks she's going to try to be more careful, but she's not more careful.
Yeah.
Because she's on one. You know, she I don't know what they're gonna do next episode. I'm just saying I hope she doesn't say fuck it and torch King's Landing. I hope not.
It's like me. I would hope I wouldn't do it, but I don't know. If I was in her situation, oh my god, it'd probably be a fuck it. Let's go. It's not like burn everyone, but Cersei's got the wildfire everywhere, so she doesn't know that. She's going after the soldiers and probably all the scorpions and stuff, but
I do slightly bank on the fact that she will end up setting off wildfire, not just because of the books, but because in season 2, when Tyrion discovers all of those barrels or casks of wildfire, he turns around and he tells Roy Dotrice, "You're not making wildfire for my sister anymore, you're making it for me." Cutscene to Daenerys and her handmaiden in Karth, and for the first time it's showing Daenerys drop the Dracarys line, and she's teaching Drogon how to feed himself. Yes, they might retcon that, I don't know, but because there was that segue way back in the day, and they're not above leaving loose ends, but they're not below trying to keep to consistency and tying up loose ends. Because of that cutscene, I do think that no matter where Dany's head is at, bottom line, she accidentally ignites the wildfire.
Right. I'm glad you brought up Daenerys and the state of mind and the discourse in the fandom around her, because I think it's very important for us to address. I have a few thoughts. One, as a Stannis fan, it's Well, I feel like I need to rush to defend Daenerys because no one, even the people who detest Stannis Baratheon, when he burns Shireen, no one says he's mad in that moment. So if you're going to call Daenerys mad, please call Stannis mad. And I'm willing to say
that was so big of you as a Stannerman. That was
just true because
that's beautiful.
It's ridiculous to say that to someone who's in a desperate mode who fucking burns their own daughter. Nowhere within that situation is Stannis Baratheon crazy. He's not crazy.
Right.
He's ruthless and relentless. And I think that it's important for us to acknowledge that you need to stop saying Daenerys is mad if you're not going to say these other characters, the men especially, are not mad as well.
I also want to point out Dany is not equipped to make a good call. That is not saying that leaves her unable to make a good call or that she won't be responsible for her own actions moving forward, or that she doesn't have to pay consequences for bad calls. I'm saying she is not emotionally she's not equipped to do so. Think of us on our worst in our worst times. People who deal with general anxiety disorder every day, they're not equipped to do their best. Some of them can still do it, but they're not equipped to do so. And we don't, it's wrong to shit on them for the missteps they take when they're at their worst. People who have depression, they are not equipped to get out of bed without something in their being physically hurting, but we don't shit on them for that.
Yeah.
You know, not saying they can't get out of bed, but we don't shit on them. Dany is in this unspeakable place. She's not equipped to make a good decision.
Right.
Not saying she won't. She is not equipped.
Right. And, you know, just two more things that I wanted to make as a comment on Daenerys. If you're also saying that she's mad, I've seen this in the past 48 hours. Well, I'm saying she's mad because she's got that Targaryen incest blood in her and her father was mad. So there has to be the likelihood that she would go mad. If you're comparing her actions to the Mad King's, need to fucking stop and go read and know the fact that the Mad King got off on this shit.
Technically, Jon is also a product of incest.
Right.
So we can throw that argument out the window. Like Jon's father, his parents were siblings. Lyanna's parents were cousins. Be objective, people. Please. Not be fishes. Not be fishes objective.
There is nowhere in the narrative that Dany, I got ready to say Danis, Jesus, that Dany has ever shown those tendencies like Ares to, you know, stand there and just kind of smirk while people melt in their armor. That doesn't happen. She uses, again, to draw a Stannis comparison, fire is her weapon. Fire is fucking horrible. Who wants to be burned alive? No one. I think it would be the worst experience ever. But that's what she does to punish people. And if you're saying, well, look what she did to Randall Tarley. He was a rebel. He betrayed the Tyrells.
And Randall Tarley was Randall Tarley. I mean,
and he was fucking Randall Tarley. Absolutely. Shitbag that deserved it. But one other thing that I want to say, I am very concerned, just as you all are, over that Dany, not that she is crazy, but that she's in a state of mind where a decision she makes, even if it's a good one, could result in a catastrophic turn of events for her. And I'm not just talking a city exploding. But we know George loves to push his characters into circumstances where they make a decision that then blows up completely in their face, even if it's an altruistic decision or it seems like the right path or whatever. I don't think the show is above, and I don't think this should be a testament to Danny as a character. I don't think the show is above the city exploding accidentally and it being completely blamed on Daenerys Targaryen.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I think that to me seems like something that could very easily happen in the book, and the consequences of that will be devastating because we may know as the reader, we may know as the show watcher that, well, it was Cersei that put all that wildfire there. Cersei, maybe she orders it ignited like the Mad King was going to do. Maybe it was accidentally some of the dragon flame that leapt from one building to the next and then exploded. I'm very concerned, however, for Danny's ending in this series around the fact that something like that could happen and that Jon Snow is very black and white, in my opinion, when it comes to right and wrong in this world. And so that's what I am very concerned about going forward with these two characters.
Show Jon has shown Jon loved Ygritte. Ygritte was a spear wife who raiding, which means she killed innocent people. She did this in front of Jon a couple times. Jon still loved her. Granted, Jon ended up leaving her and nothing got resolved before she got shot through the heart. My concern with how they wrap up Daenerys' plot point is tipped off through Emilia Clarke, who has said a couple of things about wandering around the streets of London, heartbroken and aimless after reading the final script. And there's an interview with Raleigh Ritchie / Jacob Anderson. He's both Grey Worm's actor, Natalie Emmanuel and Emilia Clarke. And they were asked by the interviewer, "Are you satisfied with the ending?" Most awkward reaction from the three of them collectively, just them being like, yeah, that's what concerns me. I don't know if I love the way that the show is handling Daenerys, even if there are certain points that I like, even if there are certain aspects of how they're handling Daenerys that I do appreciate. As a whole, they're failing homegirl. They're failing her bad, so.
Yeah. The fact is, however, just as you said, Alisha, and as we've talked throughout this episode, that this is set up to be a very dark, tragic ending for a lot of these people. And I don't think we never thought this was going to be fucking Prince Charming and whoever going off into the sunset, all that type of bullshit.
As far as what I think will happen next episode, maybe this is lazy of me. I'm gonna tap out and say, I don't know. Just because this show has done the show hasn't paced things very well. So that throws off some of my ability to predict. This show has thrown weird shit out of the blue. That throws off my ability to predict. So I'm just at a point where okay, when it comes out, I'll weigh in, give my 2 cents. Other than that, there are only so many aspects I'm going to try to be like, this is how this battle's going to go with the Golden Company and nice pants.
One of the things that I really want to see in the next episode is a moment for Danny to reflect. I don't know if they would incorporate this storyline, but her talking to Tyrion or Varys or whomever about the house with the red door. Like talking about, like to your point, Alisha, that her only identity has ever been the Iron Throne and King's Landing and the Targaryen lineage. But, in the book, she has this great memory of this house with the red door, which a lot of people theorize where it is and all that. But at its core, it's about a home, a place where she feels safe, a place where she feels loved, a place where she's not hungry, all of these things. And there's in the next, in the scenes from the next episode, there's this scene. It looks like Tyrion enters the chamber of the painted table on Dragonstone, and Daenerys is just kind of longingly looking out from the balcony over the sea. And it would just be so nice for her to say, I only ever thought about Westeros. I only ever thought about coming home. And the moment I get here, I realize this isn't the place for me. This isn't what I thought it would be. I thought something like that. My whole life has been about getting here. And now that I'm here, I want to be anywhere else but here. Like something, give her some emotional resonance for us to feel pity for this character who has had an amazing arc. She really has.
Right.
But I just feel like they need to take a pause a little bit if they really are going in a certain way with this character in the end. I don't know. I'm like you. We got to wait and see. We got to hope, I guess, for the best, but give her something. Give her something.
Dany in the books is a character whose vibrance is shown through inner monologue.
Yes.
Outwardly, what she shows, understandably so, she is trying to present herself as stoic, powerful, and a little girl who can run, and I don't agree with this mentality, but a little girl who can hold her own against the big boys. In the show, with that lack of inner monologue, you're going to miss out on a lot of Dany's vibrancy.
Yeah.
My issue with the behind the episode segments is when you have to do this after every episode to over explain the scene that you just produced, you failed. And I'm not trying to shit on the show too much, but like going back to that awful Cersei Jaime funeral scene, the fact that you have to over explain and over explain and over explain that you don't think it was rape, you failed.
Yeah.
And I hope that by the end of it, like you said, we have at least one monologue about her longings for identity and home and safety. And we're not left to just kind of surmise and wonder and say, well, we have the books. And we do. That's wonderful. But I hope it happens within the episode and not behind the episode.
Yes. I agree.
Well put.
All right. I think that is a perfect place to stop.
We made it.
We did
it.
So before we conclude tonight and wrap up the last of the Starks, we want to take just a moment to get to know you, Alisha, a little more. So we do this thing called Your Song of Ice and Fire, where we try to capture fans' stories within the fandom, how they came to Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire. So if you don't mind, we're going to ask you a few questions and then we'll wrap up here tonight. So first question that we ask everyone, how did you get into A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones?
Okay, well, I did read the books first. However, the books caught my attention because of the show. There isn't too much of an in-depth story about how the show caught my interest because it's Game of Thrones. I am one of those people where if I see a show or a movie I eventually want to start watching, I'm going to read the books first. So funny story. It was about the beginning of season 3 that I first picked up the books to read them so that I could start Game of Thrones. So I got to Storm of Swords, and I was about halfway through it, which we all know this big thing that happens about halfway through Storm of Swords. And the Red Wedding happened on the show before I could read it in the book.
Oh, wow.
And that was a big deal to everybody. So I was spoiled through that. That broke my heart. But other than that, I was able to read the books first and be able to experience that without too many spoilers. Yeah, and then I found myself, I won't lie to you, the first time I read the books through, I skipped some parts. You come to realize after a while that's a mistake. You cannot skip parts in A Song of Ice and Fire. And yeah, that's
all right. How did you get into the fandom? How did you take to Twitter? Did you go on discussion boards? How did you get into the fandom and begin interacting with the other fans?
Okay, well, a lot of the people in my in-person life, personal life, if you will, none of them were watching Game of Thrones at the time. And anyone that knows me well enough knows that when I get excited about things, I can really just overwhelm the person whose ear, unfortunately, I'm, talking off. So I took to Twitter, which I already had a Twitter account. And I first I was looking for podcasts. I don't even remember how, because I hadn't even really listened to that many podcasts. But as I was going through and I was trying to find something of more substance, of more meat than just the thoughts I was having in my own head, I came across the History of Westeros podcast. And clearly I fell in love with that from the get-go. And then right after that, I found the Radio Westeros podcast. And I think they were only on like episode 3. And I thought, this is awesome. So then I joined Twitter discussion because I think Aziz on his podcast had plugged in, yeah, we're on Twitter. Long story short, I became a Patreon of the History of Westeros podcast. Aziz and Ashaya and Sean do a phenomenal job of, even though they're superstars in the fandom, they do not think that they're above anybody. They interact with the small fry fans. And I thought to myself, maybe I'm actually, instead of just, viewing these tweets, I'm gonna interact and put in my 2 cents, and hopefully I don't sound like an idiot. Well, Aziz is amazing at making you not feel like an idiot, even if you're an idiot, unless you're an ignorant, hateful idiot, because then he lights you up and I'm here for it. Anyway, so long story short, Aziz giving me a platform and retweeting some of my tweets and answering messages through Patreon when I had an observation about the show ended up introducing me to a lot of other people in the fandom. And then I think somehow I got involved in a Twitter banter with Beefish. And Beefish and I became best frenemies from that point on. And I do have to say, when it comes down to it, I think a good 2/3 of my followers at this point are because of Jeff. Basically through him, I was able to just, how Twitter is, you branch out, you meet people. Yep. Well, online meet people. So yeah, and the next thing you know, you're just entrenched and we're all one big dysfunctional family. We've had some inside jokes about that. You're in these threads that go on for 600 tweets because you say something like, I don't like Stannis,
and then Frank comes calling.
Oh God. Oh, that was out loud. Frank has.
I'm sorry, I can't add it. We're not editing that out.
I swear, Frank has either a 6th fucking sense for certain keywords and tweets, or he has legit notifications that go off on his phone, on his laptop. He somehow trained ravens. I don't know, but anytime you drop a keyword, Frank will literally give himself coming out around a corner being like,
yeah.
It's just always there. Hi, Frank.
Hi, Frank. What about the show? Do you have a favorite episode or season of the show that you particularly like?
You know, you asked me this. You told me like 2 months ago this question was coming. and I thought on it. I don't have a favorite episode. I not off the top of my head, I don't think. I do have a favorite moment in the entire series. Hard Home. That whole 20-30 minute segment. Definitely my favorite. The rest of season 5 needs to burn in hell, though.
What about Cersei's Walk of Shame?
Oh, because as a woman, I love watching another. Loved it. Shame gets my nipples hard. Yes.
You know what's weird is the actress who plays Septon Unella. She was on Joanna Robinson's Still Watching podcast as a guest. I don't know if you all heard that. Yeah. Did you hear that interview with her?
I did not.
Okay. Well, one of the funny things is her agent gets requests all the time for people that want her to come and shame them. And she did not say in what way, but she alluded to like, there are things I can't discuss.
Oh my God.
So does that mean that golden showers are involved or?
Wow. You took everything.
Wow.
That it's probably along those lines, I would think.
The book series. Do you have a favorite book or a favorite chapter from the book?
Do I get to cheat and consider Feast and Dance the same book?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
You can do whatever you want.
I will say Feast Dance is my favorite book, but if I had to choose between the two, Dance with Dragons.
Nice. Nice.
That's actually one that not many people choose, I think. So
like I said earlier, foot for every butt, foot for every boot. Everybody's entitled to their opinions, even if they are, I don't want to channel Jeff, but here we go. Even if they're wrong, objectively.
And ugly.
And ugly and
bad.
Stupid. And did I mention I work out? Freedom! I was in the Great War. Okay. It's really weird because I know every time Jeff and I get into one of our Twitter banters, I gain about at least 3 different followers that day.
Yeah.
But one time I tuned into this live stream for one of LML's episodes, and I rarely catch those, but I was chatting with somebody, and I don't even remember who it was for the life of me, but someone said, Alisha being the sworn enemy of Beefish? Is this the same Alisha? And it's like, is that what I'm known for? Oh, all right. Wear it like armor, I guess.
That's right. It's a proud badge that you have on your armor is
one day
Slayer of Beefish.
You mark my words, one day Jeff will be known as my sworn enemy, and I will be the bigger deal.
Yeah.
Props not. I don't give that many shits about Twitter. Okay.
I hope you're correct. I would like to see that come to pass.
All right. Final question. Do you have a favorite character or storyline from the books or show?
My 3 favorite characters would John, Brienne, and Jamie. As much as I love Dany, I would put her more in like a top 10 than I would say she's my favorite. I just feel like there are many, many aspects to Daenerys's life that I personally feel like I relate to. So sometimes when I defend her, there's a little bit of emotional projection going on. But
sure,
John, it's a very vanilla answer. almost the same as being like, oh, Imagine Dragons is my favorite band. But it's true. I've always enjoyed reading his chapters, even if they seem boring to other people. And Jamie and Brienne, I feel like those should be a little self-obvious without me taking up more of everyone's time. As far as a favorite storyline, I'm sure there is one, but off the top of my head, I love Theon's return to Winterfell. I don't love him being Reek, but I love him transitioning back into Theon.
Yeah. Amazing.
I love the mystery of it all, every little thing about those chapters, his emotional state. I don't love that he's there, but I'm saying it's good reading.
Yeah.
Even right down to little details, like, is one of the spear women, Rowan, I think it is, she's suspected of being Crowfoot's daughter.
Right.
Just every little, it's just amazing. It's
yeah.
You know what? Yep. That's my favorite. That's my favorite plot line. Yeah.
Yeah. There is so much in those chapters to unpack. And, at this stage in the game, in the books, the minor characters that come waltzing into Winterfell are just amazing. Like, I never thought much about Barbary Dustin until Brett and I did an episode on her. Like, now she's one of my favorite minor characters ever, just because she's so fascinating. But yeah, that's great. Theon's arc in Dance with Dragons, I think, is one of the top twists and turns that George has ever written. I think it's just phenomenal.
Standalone, it would be phenomenal. But one thing I also really like about it is you get a little more sense of peace about, maybe not sense of peace, but you're not just left hating Theon and left with this sour taste in your mouth about what he did as the Prince of Winterfell, quote unquote. Right. Theon is probably a top 10 favorite character, I suppose. It's my favorite. I love it. It's very, very meaty chapters. And
yeah. All right. Well, that's going to bring us to a close tonight. What a great discussion we've had here. The Last of the Starks is going to leave us asking a lot of questions about where things are going. A lot of great moments in this episode. A lot of moments that we discussed here that we didn't particularly like, but that's fine. You're not going to like everything in life 100%.
You may not like our opinions, but you're wrong when you don't.
You're wrong.
I'm pretty sure, and I thought about this too, but it's okay. I'll own it. I'm pretty sure there are a couple things I said, not meaning it the way it came out, that I'm probably going to get some shit for it. Please, as much as I joked around and said, fuck you, come find me, totes not Alice, if you disagree with me, please come find me. I love having disagreements with people as long as they're productive. Don't be an asshole or I'm likely to shred you.
And I've seen her do it, so.
if I've said something offensive or something you don't like, I do welcome the open discussion. This is my first time on a podcast. I have foot and mouthitis to begin with, so come find me.
Yep. You can find her at TotesNotAlice on Twitter.
Remember, totes is spelled traditionally.
The traditional spelling of totes. All right. Thanks again to Alisha for joining us. We're going to be back next week with episode 5 and another brand new guest. We have only 2 episodes to go this season. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at planetospodcast. Listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, SoundCloud, Google Play, and other platforms. That's a lot of words to say this late at night. Rate and review us on iTunes. That helps us get the word out about the podcast.
But we'd also like to hear from you. Send us your questions, your ideas, your theories to planetospodcast@gmail.com. So join us next time, and we'll see you.